All right, we're going to call this meeting to order at 6 o'clock, May 17th.
Looks like we have a full house, I
We got
think.
a full house here tonight. All right. So no need to appoint alternates. Agenda, there have been changes to the agenda.
There have been changes to the agenda. I made it easy tonight.
It's great.
I've indicated them in red.
Okay, I don't have the red one.
So.
That's
so
this one.
Right, so at the table,
do.
you might have had additions. So all of the additions occur on page 2.
Okay, I'll get rid of this one.
So the first edition is case P 2208, which is for Sacco Alton 1 LLC. That was continued from the March meeting in order for them to potentially get a variance from the ZBA. And in the meantime, they've submitted a letter of withdrawal. So that's that. Under old business, I'd like to move the Alternative Housing Committee to A, and the discussion about approving one application for the citizen member. And under 4, correspondence for the board's information, I added a hard road to travel. We have the newest 2022 edition. And I just attended a webinar like a couple weeks ago on that. And that's it.
Mr. Chairman, I will move to accept the agenda as amended.
All right, do we have a second?
Second.
Any comments? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Right, so moving on to first case P 22-12. Completeness review for John Helly Life Estate. Healy, thank you. Lot line adjustment, map 29, lot 65, 66 on Old Wolfboro Road.
Board, we get to come up here.
Yep. If you could, we just until we determine whether it's complete, if you can hang on, you're welcome to sit down though, please.
Sure. Look at me jumping the gun. Huh? When do
So-
you guys make that determination?
So we have, looks like everything was in sample deed waiver, but we've kind of determined we can handle, hold off on those anyway, right?
Right, you should address that though, whether you want to act on the waiver or if you want to put that as a conditions precedent. You should just decide on and vote on that. Because that is a completeness item.
Yep.
Well, usually, once we do waivers and then we do the completeness, is it?
Yeah.
So ordinarily, so if it's an item that has to do with completeness, then you would do the waiver first.
Right.
So if it's just plan content or, other additional information to add, you would do it after completeness. So since this is a completeness item, and ordinarily you guys would put this on a conditions precedent all
Okay.
on its own, but he submitted an official waiver. So it should be addressed before completeness.
Okay, thanks for making that clear, because I was getting a little confused there for a second.
The requirement for a new, for a sample deed is because they're of the ZBA action or what?
No, this is just a requirement in the, your regulations. To submit sample deeds.
And that goes to the town attorney, does it, to be reviewed, or?
If it's a complicated deed, but ordinarily, no, they don't.
Okay. Okay, now I'm confused again with the 3 stars down below. You recommend?
Maybe strong.
So we could,
So you could, so what this means is you could recommend that they don't need the waiver. You can just say, hey, you don't need the
Eliminate it.
waiver. We're not going to act on it. We'll just put it
Yeah,
on as
I mean,
conditions
it
precedent.
has to come in anyway because it's part. Mr. Chairman, I'll move to not have the deed as part of this proceeding at this point in time.
okay. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay. So that's with the understanding that we're not going to act upon it at this time,
Correct. That was the
and
intent of
address
my
this
motion.
later.
Yeah,
So
as a condition.
any further discussion on that?
Just that fits in it right, does it?
Yes.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure.
If I gather all that together, it makes sense.
Right. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. So. oh, Now the
Now
one.
completeness. And it looks complete.
It does.
Mr. Chairman, I'll move on case P 22-12 is to accept the application as complete.
Right.
Second.
We have a second?
Yep.
Right. Any further discussion on that? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Excellent. All right. Now that we got over that,
I agree with the waiver not being necessary.
all right, would you like to walk us through this real quickly, if you
Sure,
wouldn't
absolutely.
mind?
My name's Eric Salovich, and I will actually pass these around. These are the same survey you guys already have, but we addressed some comments on the planning review.
Oh, okay.
It's really just updating the title. The other
Let go,
ones,
Raj.
we didn't make changes to. and
There you go.
that As to why.
Thank you.
First of all, my name is Eric Salovich. I'm with Northam Survey out of Dover, New Hampshire. Here with me today is Richard and Louise Healy and Harold French. Listen to them. This is two parcels of land in Alton. It's map 29, lot 65 and lot 66 on Old Wolfboro Road. Pretty much at the intersection of Wolfboro Highway, also known as Route 28. There's two existing lots there now, one of which is conforming, one of which is not conforming. The non-conforming lot is 12,576 square feet. So it does not meet the minimum area requirement for zone RC. Both lots meet the minimum frontage, and there were some setbacks, issues with existing structures. We were at the Town of Alton Zoning Board of Adjustment earlier this month and have been granted the equitable waiver for all structures within the setbacks. And I have that approval here if you'd like me to send this around. So with the structures out of concern, I mean, these houses, to give you guys a quick rundown of that, are predate zoning. They were both built around the 1950s. I think one was 1937, just off the top of my head. So zoning really didn't exist at the time. And when they widened Route 28, they actually moved one of the structures. I believe that was around 57 or 62, or right in that timeframe, still pre-zoning. In any event, Mr. Healy owns both lots. He's looking to sell one of the lots. The way the existing lot lines are configured does not work with the current use of the land. It was never an issue because he owned both lots. Now that he's looking to sell one, he's looking to make the adjustment. So the adjustment that we're making is, as you can see on this survey, the dashed lines that are kind of grayed out. There's one, a continuance of the middle line, and then it turns a 90 degrees and heads almost due south. Those lot lines are to be abandoned, and we're proposing one new lot line angling off almost perpendicular to Wolfboro Highway. What this does is allows the 54 Old Wolfboro Road property to no longer have their rear deck over the lot line, and to be able to use the shed out in the rear portion of the property as it's intended.
Okay, which one is 52?
54
54.
is
The lower lot?
the lower piece.
The lower loss. Okay, so this is 54.
Yeah, so there's a deck over the lot line.
Thanks,
there's a
Rich.
Shed in the back. It's currently changed by 54. So there, They will be removing one of the sheds that is encroaching the 10-foot side yard setback. That shed is dilapidated and falling apart anyways as it is. So the property will be cleaned up as a result of this project, and it makes both lots, well, the one lot conforming. So at the end of the project, both lots are conforming.
Originally, this was owned by Mrs. Pello. Both.
Yeah,
Have
Pello's,
to look at
Pello's one below it. Oh,
No, Pello's owned both of those. at one time.
yeah, I know, but they still
Right,
own the one below it.
but then he only spot both of them.
Hey,
Right.
Lee, if you're gonna
Sorry.
pull your mic down at least so that, you know, if you're gonna,
Yep. Sorry,
thanks.
I'm all set.
All right. Okay, well, I certainly don't see any real hangups here.
I don't either.
I mean, this seems like as clever a solution as one could hope for. So,
I agree.
And one thing I don't think is in our jurisdiction here is those lots could stand to be cleaned up. Just saying.
and each one of these structures has separate septic and they're all supported.
Municipal water.
Both structures are on municipal water. Both structures have septics, separate septics. Part of the survey, there was no visible features of a septic. We weren't able to identify vent pipes and where those are. Speaking with Mr. Healy, and he is here, the septic for 54 is basically right where that map 29 lot 66 label is. And the septic for 58 is, I believe, right out front in that open area between the ash and the maple tree.
And they're probably all pre-72, I would imagine.
I'm sure. Old stone and well systems, they don't build them like they used to.
Plus the good soils there, anyway, reasonable soils, I should say.
So that was the only reason for not just going straight back with that line, so you can have the shed?
I believe so. Yeah, and you can see some of those shrub lines, like where the mature tree lines are, lined up better with the use of the property.
Yeah, you may have had a tough time hitting that half-acre mark too with a straight line.
Mm.
Or that 54. Board have any other questions?
Straightforward.
One thing I have a question here is where is the state right of way on this? And how wide is the state right of way on 28?
So we show the controlled access right of way along the rear portion of the property. And then the EP line, that's actually the near side EP, just to not fit it in the sheet.
Okay, so that's the near side of 28
That
that's
is-
closest to
that is
this?
Near side pavement, correct.
Okay,
And then
so
the-
what's the right of way through there? Is it 4 rods?
This is 150
was-
foot wide public right away.
Yeah.
Thank
C
you.
note 11.
Sounds good then.
I don't see an issue with it.
All right, open this up for public. Anyone from the public like to speak to this? Either yay or nay? Hearing nothing, we'll close the public session. All right, so. Okay. Board?
Do we have to deal with that waiver now, or did that get
No,
thrown
no,
right
we're
out?
we're gonna put that as a conditions precedent.
So I'll entertain a motion.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, on case P 22-12, I move to approve the lot line adjustment as presented, and conditions precedent is to have the sample deed brought to the planning office for their approval. End of story.
I'll second that.
Right. I believe that we also had some conditions subsequent. So it's the conditions precedent and subsequent.
And subsequent, yes,
As listed with the addition of the requirement for the deed.
Deed, correct.
Just to clarify that
Yeah, and-
motion.
and Bill should
Still-
update
you're
his-
Still seconding
I'll
that
second
motion?
that. yes.
Okay.
Okay,
Actually, on discussion of the planning review, as this is going to be pertinent to that, I was requested to change the title of the plan to Life Estate of John Healy and Richard and Louise Healy. Now, I have copies of printouts from town records that show current owner of both properties being Richard and Louise Healy, and current copies of warranty deeds that list Mr. Richard E. Healy and Louise A. Healy as the owners. So I am not sure where the life estate of John Healy is, or where the ownership of the property
Can I speak
is.
to that?
yeah, please.
So that information came from the assessing database.
Sure.
So that,
And I don't think,
So
I don't think the way the deed is presented it to you is really a factor here. Because of, it's a life estate property, so that's kind of like the fee simple ownership, you know?
It's also the responsibility really of the applicant and his or her agent to make sure that that deed is correct.
Right.
It's not our responsibility to
Correct.
verify the correctness of that deed.
Correct.
So, but the application came relative to the life estate, but
And the deed will say life estate, I imagine, correct?
So
No, it won't.
that's why I disagree with changing the title of my plan.
Oh, okay.
so that, so truly it's the lot line adjustment is based on the records that exist, which
Yeah,
are
and I
for
didn't
Richard E.
title-
and Louise A.
I didn't title the application the life estate. That was added in.
Okay,
It was, this is a lot line adjustment for Richard and Louise Healy. But I understand the assessing records state the life estate, but the assessing records that I pulled today at 4:06 PM read Richard and Louise Healy, not life estate. And we were discussing some issues with Avatar during this process. I know it's not a big deal, but we're about to grant an approval, and I'm not gonna change the title of my plan without some further evidence. And I've spoken with Richard and Louise about this as well. And ownership is to them, so.
I have to concur. I think that in my opinion, and please, anybody correct me, but if the records all indicate them as the owners and not the life estate, then I believe that it should be their names that are on all of this and the
Correct.
approval.
And to correct the tax office.
Yeah,
Of how, and when this is done, they'll get a copy of the recorded deed anyhow. And so they should pick that up at that point.
Then
absolutely.
Can you clarify how the life estate got pulled into this? Simply based on the tax record?
I think it was our understanding it was on the tax records. So, and I think that Jessica's in the process of doing her research right now.
Because if it needs to be changed, we have to change our vote at this point. Correct the motion that was made.
shows it right there.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question.
That's why.
Yeah,
I mean, it still lists them as Richard and Lois.
Yeah.
yeah, it does.
Healy, John Life.
Says
Estate.
Yeah, it says, it does. We just pulled up the tax card here and it says Healy, Richard and Lois, Healy, John Life Estate.
But I think the public, when they look at Avatar, for some reason, they get a different view. Is that what we're talking about?
Yeah, I definitely agree with that.
It
is
says
We
the
see
owner
different
up here,
things.
and it
Yeah.
only shows under
I
the
don't think-
owner because it doesn't
I
have a
don't think
second
they see
line.
this block right here. I think that was an addition. I think that was an additional feature. So they see this up here, which it's really not wrong.
Well,
I
John,
tend to be technical.
John was
so
his father.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah. So he's passed, I'm sure.
So then just have the applicants address it with the assessing department and just
Sure.
update it.
Not
Not
a
a big
problem.
deal.
May I speak, Mr. Chairman?
Yes,
He'll have to change it with Belknap County deed too.
Well, this is going to go to
This'll
the
do
be
it. This'll
registered.
do it already.
I know, but
This,
well, I'm saying as of right now, it's showing that Belknap County deed is still a life estate.
No,
this-
no,
this
that's the
not.
deed. The deed does
That's
not.
the
The
tax.
tax card's what says life estate.
And I can pass these.
And they're
around.
going to create new deeds for both of the properties anyhow, Because, and then it should be shown that it's in Lois and Dick's, Richard's
Correct.
name, and whoever they want to sell it to is up to them.
Who originally submitted it in as a
Well, I
lifelong
think
estate?
your father may have, Dickie, right? They've done the life estate. He might have turned it over to you and he had life estate to enjoy the rest of his life there. That's usually how that goes. Right, but he says, I want to live here for the rest of my days. Yeah, so I think that's how it came into action, which makes sense because,
And then it was never updated.
Right, it's fine. It's just
yeah,
updated. It-
the
it
new
can-
deeds will clarify it all.
So-
It is today, that's all.
It's a very minor.
That's
hiccup
all I
on an
was
easy
wondering.
project.
So for the sake of this clarification, this case is listed under the John Healy Life Estate. So when we approve this case, how do we?
So, no, you should approve it under this Richard E. and Lois A. Healy.
Right.
Okay, so I should amend my motion
Thank you.
Correct.
to have this in the name of Richard and Lois Healy.
Seconded.
Bill has, no, Bill has.
Bill has to do it.
Seconded again.
Gonna have fun with these meeting minutes. Okay, any further discussion?
Should probably open up to the public one last time, just
Yeah,
Because-
you're right. Good point. Yep. And the public have any input on this at all? Hearing none, close the public session again. So go back to vote.
The amended,
as amended.
You don't want
amended.
us to repeat that, action, do you?
Short but sweet.
So move this to a vote. So all those in favor?
aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? There you go. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
You want those copies back?
Did you just take my agenda? off this one? Oh, you must have sold mine then.
Yeah.
I have the old one.
Flip it over.
No, this one hasn't got red on it because I got it out of the way. Maybe it's got it in here somewhere. There it is. I got it. I packed it away myself.
All right. Moving on, we have case P 2219. Meadowlark Holdings LLC. This is the amended final major site plan.
19. Jumping way ahead here. ain't we? Wasn't there one-
2219.
That's number 2.
I'm going in order. Number 2 on the
Yeah.
agenda.
That's not mine.
This one,
Same on the-
2219.
Yeah, it is.
Oh, I know that, but I mean,
Oh,
my files. here.
well, I threw a 14 on top just because I had a 14, but
13.
All right, so regarding completeness, it looks like we have most everything in here. We are still waiting on permits for water subdivision and septic approval. And we do have some waivers. A waiver request.
and that's kind of minor.
Well,
19, yeah. Yeah, right there.
I think that can also be handled in the. As I can't think of my words right now. I will find it here. As a condition.
Okay, so we have a waiver for section 5.10 C1 lighting plan.
So that's actually not part of the completeness. So you can do that
Oh,
after.
we can do that after?
Okay,
Yeah,
Oh, all
so
right,
that's
good.
why I moved that waiver section after
Is that why you did that?
the completion section.
Mr. Chairman, on case P 22-19, I will move to accept the application as complete.
Second.
We have a motion, we have a second. Any discussion?
So can I make a comment? So in this completeness section, it requires permits from NHDES for water subdivision and septic approval. So if you can just confirm if you're going to put that as a condition precedent.
I would move this whole list probably would be about appropriate. You know, I think the drinking water, they should be able to give you that anyway, because I'm sure that at least once a year, they have to get drinking water testing done because they're a public source for their water. So they should have that readily available.
I think with
So
being a
Septic
campground, you have to
still
have an
needs to be
operator.
approved,
Yeah,
right?
and you have to have an operator as
You'd have
well.
to have an operator
Yeah.
with that kind of, with
Yeah.
that size of a system.
Yeah. Yeah, but they also, need, the septic, as well.
Yeah, yep. Yeah, just make it to, I think all those conditions that Jess put down are
So, and those are shown, you actually have those already.
Those are
listed
conditions
under,
precedent.
Precedent, so,
for you, Raj.
Just wanted to clarify that. Thank you.
okay. All right, so we have a motion, we have a second. Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none. All right, so Daniel? All right, come on up.
Dan, you found everything okay? Okay.
Excuse me?
I'm good.
Okay, so if you guys could just announce your names into the microphones and,
Sure. I'm Dan Flores with SFC Engineering. And with me here is Kirk Coulter, the owner of Robert Snow Campground.
Mr. Chairman, can I just clarify something for the record?
yes,
Regarding the case number. So at the last meeting, this case got continued to this month, and it was case P 2211.
Right.
So that is now in parentheses, and it's because a new final plan was submitted. So we named it 2219, just so that the
Yeah,
new stuff
this is
didn't get,
The 11 is the plan that we saw the last time.
right. So I didn't want things to get mixed up in the files. So this technically is a continuation of
2219.
2211 still, but it's
But
labeled as 2219.
It will go in the file as 19.
Correct. I just wanted to just get that cleared for the record.
okay, thank you.
Great, so I'll begin. Yeah, we were here back on March 15 for design review. And with that design review, we depicted proposed 12 campsites as well as a bathhouse and a pavilion. We submitted that in April, actually end of March for the April hearing. And then the decision was made to remove the pavilion and the bathhouse and instead add 3 additional sites, so 15 campsites. So the plan you see in front of you has proposed 15 campsites and no bathhouse or pavilion. When I was here last time, we discussed the master plan for the development of the campground. That is unchanged. So we will still have the bathhouse. It'll now be a bathhouse / pavilion as a future phase, as well as the remaining 49 campsites with 10 cabins. But again, we're not here for that now. I just wanted to reiterate what we discussed last time. So today, the application in front of you is for 15 campsites, which I'm showing here. And those 3 additional sites over the 12 basically are in the same spot as the bathhouse that we had previously proposed. We do have comments or actually approval back from town engineer for the drainage design.
We had a comment from code officer, which I had addressed and sent back. Um, And planner review, there was nothing major there. Regarding the additional approvals required, we submitted to DES for water supply approval back in early March, and we literally just got that a week ago. They're pretty slow up there at the moment. You're correct that this is a public water supply system. To add the 15 sites, we have to amend that approval for the additional sites. We do have their approval. I can submit that to you, Jessica. We also are in process for subdivision approval from the state. The state requires subdivision for all campground development. I have final comments from DES that I received this morning. I anticipate getting subdivision approval, if not this week, the next week. With that approval, then I can submit the septic design, and that plan set does include the full septic design on the last sheet. So yes, we're asking for a site plan approval, with the 3 state approvals being a condition of that.
The septic design, though, is for the future.
Nope, it's for the 15 sites. We have oversized.
Oh, right.
Yeah, we made it a little bit bigger for the future sites, given the location. But the intent here is, it's just for this current development.
And were there any comments from DES with respect to the septic system?
No, they haven't seen the septic system yet, but the subdivision, there were some clarification questions about previous subdivision approvals for the property. I believe that was pretty much the bulk of it. So more or less just clarification items.
Okay.
Jessica, I have a question. I seem to remember when this Roberts Knolls first came in, that it was somewhat of a phased approach to what they were doing, and it's a recollection, I don't remember for sure, that I think more sites were approved, but they weren't built. Can you shed any light to
So,
that?
When they came in a long time ago through the ZBA, they were approved for 210 sites.
Okay,
Yeah.
so I'm
they
not all
already-
wet.
they Already had a, yeah.
Okay, what was that, what the subdivision approval was for, 205 sites?
No.
No,
No,
oh bummer.
Yeah,
right.
Okay.
Just at the ZBA.
Okay, I
level.
just wanted to be clear of that, just see what it was, so. So that's basically the gist of John's comments on his department head.
Yeah, you just wanted to make sure there was
Yep.
going to be enough septic.
Yep.
Yep.
And fire department, I'm glad they finally are saying this is not a requirement for the cisterns, because the selectmen have not approved cisterns in this town. But that being said, the town did purchase a 2,500 gallon tanker, so they could hopefully alleviate some of this cistern situation. And a camper can't take that, well, I've been put up plenty of mountain fires. They don't take a lot of water to put them out, because they implode pretty quickly.
Wouldn't the, talking about it earlier, wouldn't the pool count as a pretty good cistern?
Sure, because the fire department has martial law to take whatever water they want. There's also a brook that runs down through there. And to help the fire department, I think a dry hydrant would be much more effective than a cistern. So if you'd look into that, and I know the town has put some monies away for these dry hydrants available, and I know you'd have to put some in with it, but it's really a good thing, and the town has done a comprehensive study. The fire department has done a comprehensive study of where and what water sources are available, ones that would apply for a dry hydrant. So speaking of the fire department.
So we've got a stormwater management report as well. Do we need?
You guys had reviewed that at the last meeting.
Right.
There were some changes and they were presented to Dana Huff, who's the town engineer on the project. And he submitted his findings. It's a letter dated May 16th. And his recommendation is to approve the application. He was fine with the changes.
Okay.
So basically, everything is in order. They just don't have the approvals yet
From the state.
from the state. So we could do things conditionally upon receipt of those approvals.
Yep, but before you guys get that far,
We need to address the waiver.
Waiver, right?
yes.
So,
Yep.
So we do need to address the waiver for the lighting plan, section 510C1 lighting plan, indicating fixture specifications, placement and area lighting intensities on the ground.
Do you need me to read that into the record or
What's that?
do you need me to read that into the record or?
What's that? Your waiver request? Well, I think we just,
Just
Read
did.
that.
yeah. Unless you want the verbatim of how you worded your waiver and why.
Well, let's make sure that they know what the lighting requirement is too. Dark sky lighting, nothing over 3000 K color,
Correct.
one white.
What's in the rest of the park? That's the existing.
It's probably nothing.
Yeah, there.
I mean, campgrounds are known for not having
Yeah.
lighting in them.
Right, so just and that's where you were alluding to, I'm sure, Dan, is that the intent of the campground development is to have limited artificial outdoor lighting in keeping with a camping experience.
Mhm.
So,
Carry your flashlight.
It would have been a blank lighting plan, basically. So the waiver takes care of that.
And there will be lots of lighting around the bathhouse, and that's really where the traffic of the pattern goes, where it's a public place that needs light in the night that you could approach the building and motion lights that come on. That's currently in place with the existing campground and will be reflected in the addition.
Is the number of bath requirements still there, even though these are campers that are all self-contained?
yeah, I was reading through that and you have enough to support up to 270 campers, or apparently they don't require a whole lot of
Yeah,
Johns and showers.
well, they have them in their unit.
Yeah,
The existing bathhouse has enough facilities for far more sites than they actually have.
And then we're adding another bathhouse, so it'll even increase from there. So it's hopefully a moot point.
yeah. All right, so regarding the request for the waiver to the lighting plan, I guess I'll take this one. I'll make a motion that we grant the waiver to the lighting plan regarding site plan review regulations 5.10C1.
I'll second that.
Seconded by Scott. Any discussion amongst the board? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? All right. Board have any other questions or comments on this?
Mr. Chairman, I have some comments.
Yeah.
So the board should decide whether there be a need for a pre-construction meeting and the need for submission of funds for construction observations on anything. Usually it's just a stormwater drainage, things like that, that get observed.
Yeah, I can't can't imagine that that's going to be a terribly, based on the drawings, they're going to be a terribly extensive review process. But it certainly stays within our guidelines, so.
Is that a yes?
So I would recommend that we do it, yes. Rest of the board feels?
Right, and then you should also come up with thresholds for active and substantial development
I was
and
gonna go-
substantial completion of improvements
Public,
at first.
yeah,
And we should outline the scope of what the engineer is to do as well, as part of this. I mean, if we don't want him to do, you know, A, B, C, but D, you know.
I'd like to, I think, open this up for public comment if we can. So is anyone from the public, any input? Hearing none, close the public portion. So getting back to your point, Scott, yes, I think some oversight of the construction of the stormwater drainage. And you know, the roads are the road, but we gotta make sure that we can get a fire truck up them, so.
Yeah, well, yeah, they'll have to be built to the plan, you know.
Some campers are the same size as fire trucks.
Longer
Or larger.
or larger. The end, I don't know which,
I think there's an extension of the roadway, isn't it?
That's correct. The road will extend from its previous use of supplying access to the main sites on that area, and the road will just go further and support the addition.
did we discuss active and
No, we gotta
substantial?
get that, the actual substantial development, so. So I would say that we've got, I mean, 24 months is kind of the standard, right?
Yep.
I mean, I suspect you plan on starting within 2 years.
Boy, howdy.
Maybe tomorrow morning?
Interest rates are going up.
Yeah,
Yeah.
ain't seen nothing yet.
Fasten
Gonna
your
use them this summer, I
seatbelt.
hope.
Right, so the active and substantial development like automatically gives 24 months to get something completed, so you just would have to come up with whatever that. something
Whatever that is.
Yeah,
How about the erosion control system, the erosions, I mean, the drainage system? That would be a substantial, you know, once they've done that work,
Yeah.
that's substantial work.
Yeah, that's you know, getting the roadway in and the, yeah, and the
The stormwater
drainage.
management is the kind of the hinge to the whole thing to,
So that'll be,
Yeah,
the
because then all the other work is handled by the erosion control.
correct.
there we go.
okay, what about substantial completion of improvements?
So substantial completement.
Thought
you're-
didn't we do that? The drainage? Isn't that,
Well, that marks the start of the work. So that's substantial,
but that gets them vested in it.
that gets invested in it. And then you would need to be substantially complete within,
2 years.
yeah, 2 years. You're good with 2 years.
Not a problem.
All right, 2 years it is.
He's hoping it's not that long.
Yeah.
Say if you have scope of stormwater, what is there?
It's already taking reservations.
Yeah. Fourth of July is coming.
Certainly I am. And we should be in the second phase of this by then, after the first year.
So what does he need to complete?
So completion is,
Substantial completion of improvements. What is that?
that is the
The-
completion of
of
the
the
project
drainage.
as outlined and presented.
So that would include pad sites as well as stormwater, right? Is that what we're
Yes.
saying?
Yeah, all the infrastructure, that means the septic's in, the water, everything. All your approvals.
Not a problem.
And then I just want to point out one more thing. Conditions precedent number 8, we can cross off. Because the escrow funds were submitted to the office. So we can take that off. Thank you.
I'll entertain a motion.
Thought you were gonna say that.
All right, I'll do it. How about
Good. Attaboy.
that? All right, I'll make a motion to approve case P 2219, formerly known as case P 2211, as submitted with conditions precedent and subsequent.
And were you dealing with the pre-construction hearing or not?
Yes,
And don't forget on the conditions, number 8 out.
and with the deletion under conditions precedent of item number 8.
No problem.
Seconded.
And seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
That means get to work.
Well, you gotta have a few permits yet. Preliminaries. Thank everyone.
All right.
Very nice.
Thank you.
Happy camping.
Here we go.
Here we go.
All right, so the next case, case P 2214, Green Oak Realty excavation permit application. This was continued from our April 19th meeting. And we had a site walk as well. So you guys want to?
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman. I'm just going to have Keith sign this
Oh,
the
yeah,
agent letter from Andy Sullivan.
yeah.
That was the agent letter. that we
Oh,
sent
yeah.
over.
Yeah, just sign anywhere.
She likes checks too.
All right, so this, I spent a lot of time going over this, and then I spent some time reviewing it as well with Jessica, and this is a really well-structured packet. So what I'd like to do is try and keep us working through this package in order as best as we can to try and keep this thing organized. And we can resolve items and get them crossed off and work our way right through it. So there is a lot of complexities to this, a lot of background to this. We did have that site walk. And Jessica, I don't know if you want to address or clarify now, but there was questions at the site walk, and I'll admit I'm still a little confused about it regarding, is it a meeting? And if so, should the public be speaking? And I think that I still don't fully understand all of this.
Sure.
So if you'll take a stab at explaining it.
Sure. So the board had scheduled a site walk. So it got posted as a site walk. It also got posted as a planning board meeting on the chance that 4 or more members showed up. So that way we had it posted as a meeting if we had a quorum. So technically, yes, it was a meeting, but the public hearing portion of this application was continued to tonight. So the last meeting that we had, regular board meeting, the application got continued to tonight. So although the public was present, they didn't have to speak if they didn't want to, just
But they
because
could.
they could.
They could
But
direct it to the chairman.
Right, but they didn't have to. So if there were some people that didn't feel comfortable sharing information at that site walk, they didn't have to. So yes, it was a meeting, but it wasn't the public hearing for this portion of the application.
But we
does
would
that make
listen.
sense?
Yeah, but we would listen to public comment during the site walk.
Right. So I just wanted to clarify as
I
to
agree.
why people didn't have to speak. Tonight is the public hearing, so.
Now it's speak now, ever forever hold your peace sort of thing.
So I just want to clarify that, that's all.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so kind of walk our way through this a little bit. Prior to the March 29th, 2022, all of that's in the plan of review done on April 17th of 2022. We received the application for the excavation permit on March 29th. Then a letter dated April 4th submitted by Attorney Sullivan requesting to withdraw that original excavation permit.
Yep, excuse me, Mr. Chair, can I just interrupt you for a second? So at the last meeting in April, we didn't sort of officially address the withdrawal letter. So I'd like to be able to address that before we move forward. So there was that letter that was submitted withdrawing the prior application, which is how he was able to come in and submit a new application. So just wanted to have that on the record that the actual letter did get submitted and withdrawn.
Okay. And then April 19th, we deemed the application 2214 that we're reviewing now as complete. And we did the site walk on May 7th. I'm sorry, continued the hearing to May 17th. We did the site walk on April 28th. So jumping back real quick, though, getting to the withdrawal of your previous application, just to make sure that we all understand, that kind of resets everything. So at this point now, it's anything that you submit is from scratch. So just so you understand that and everybody else here understands that we can't say, oh, that was in that last application. It's like it doesn't exist anymore.
Yep, if I could remind the board, the reason that I had to do that is because I could not talk to Conservation Board, Selectmen, or you without rescinding that application.
I don't know. I can't.
Well, a lot of the action, you can't participate in something unless there's an application active in front of you.
So the issue is he couldn't propose an amendment to what had already been presented because the regulations didn't allow for an amendment to an application. It only allowed for an amendment to a permit. So right, is that?
So what you wanted to do was
Understanding?
amend your application, but you couldn't
Right.
Right.
due to regulations.
So he's starting all over and now he can present the new stuff you want to present.
Yes, that is correct.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. I understand your perspective, but legally, I guess we were hand tied on that one. So. Okay, so with the latest excavation plan review, so there were a few items outstanding. And I think we ought to kind of plug through these one at a time. So these all show up on page 2 of your package. So portion of the property is located on the Aquifer Protection Overlay District, and it doesn't actually show up on the plans where that district limits are. It says it's like 75% of the site, I think. So.
Yeah, 75% plus or minus.
I have plans for the aquifer zone. I can pass those out.
Do you have enough for everybody or?
I only have 5 right here.
We can share.
Roger and I can share, or Lee and I,
Who's
make it
sharing?
work.
Well, Brock and I can share and you. and
Yeah.
Roger can share.
Jess, I think we'll have enough if we share 2 to 1, 2 to a page. We should be good, I think.
If you look at the hall there.
No? Okay, whatever.
Right there. I'll share with Lee.
Yeah, and we'll.
Huge.
Yep.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's not.
This-
Yeah. Where's the? This is the aquifer here in this wetland. And that's the gravel pit we're talking about right up in there. Yep. There he is.
Yeah, I would say so, yeah.
You've been there. Yes.
The access road comes in.
Right, this is coming into it. and we're back to that.
First walked it and
The access road is not in the.
I did the walk on the conservation property last year. Yeah, it's wet. I did.
What's that? I can't read it.
Okay.
Steel, okay, that's the
Lawrence a few times.
conservation land.
So why does this say conservation?
That's,
All right, gentlemen, instead of having a whole bunch of little smaller meetings, can we?
yep. We're just trying to, Roger and I are trying to identify,
Maybe we can just,
Where the road.
yeah, where it
where
comes
we
in
would
and
stand.
goes.
well, the road comes right along the edge of the,
Right.
That northern,
yeah.
that northern boundary.
And there is a conservation easement in there when they did the Hannaford. I think Dave Hussey had it at the time and they put
That would be cool.
they replaced a wetland from there and put it there. Nowadays, you just have to write a check, but you don't have to recreate them anymore.
Yeah.
The state put a price tag on the wetlands, not a.
Works conservation here.
So Tom and Tom, did you guys you were discussing something over there? Did you have?
No, just mention that we both have walked the property.
Okay, all right. Okay. These are our copies to keep, right? So I can,
Yeah,
okay.
this will be a part of the final plan set.
Okay, perfect.
This is where the yellow house is.
Okay.
And then Hussey's.
So it's also noted, the estimated volume of materials to be removed during the permit period should be added to the plan.
How long is the permit period?
So we'll have to make that determination, but I think it can be up to,
We
Thought it was 50
addressed,
years.
we had, right, I think
Yeah.
50 years. We did that
Correct.
not too long ago.
Right. There
Right.
was another permit
Okay.
that was issued for 50 years.
Yeah,
So based on
50
50,
years.
it's okay, we can do it for 50 years, figure it out.
so you'll be digging there in
Give me a
50
lot.
years.
Come back in.
Better
after
take your
50.
vitamins now.
For consistency, the storage sites and areas should be labeled the same on each sheet of the plan, because it does seem to, it shows up on some, not on others, I noticed as well. I think that was brought up as well in the last meeting. The checklist indicated not applicable for easements on site, but there is a large conservation easement indicated on the plan,
Mhm.
so that
That's
should
there.
be
That's just a clarification.
that's there.
Yeah, just clarified.
That's all.
number and type of trucks is indicated on the application as 20 dump trucks should be added to the plan.
I don't believe there's a limit to that, and I think Keith was gonna bump that to,
At least 40.
and so,
Well, that should be regulated by the state. They enter a state highway. I mean, if the state hasn't got a problem with it, we shouldn't have a problem with it.
Right, so on the, so this section right here comes from the checklist with the
Our checklist.
application.
Oh, our checklist.
Yeah,
Right.
so the
Okay.
town's application. So, and it just asks the number and types of trucks.
Well, I'd go high.
Yeah, that's all.
and so commensurately, the trips would be 80. And one in,
In
one
and
out.
out.
So you want to up this to 40 trucks round trip per day.
Right.
But next item, it talks about the maximum number of daily trips.
Right, so you got one truck, one going in empty, leaving,
Right.
so it'll be 40. 80 trips.
Noise impact study.
Given the location, you've all walked the site and it's pretty well isolated, we ask that that get waived. I mean, it's not gonna self-evident, but if you're going to the site, I mean, no one's,
You're a mile in.
yeah, no one's gonna be bothered by any noise.
So should you be requesting a waiver for that?
Yeah, we can submit, if that's what you want, we can do a formal waiver.
Yeah,
Okay,
Yep.
just so that it's clear.
sure.
The 100-year flood elevation line indicated on the plan.
It is on-
Yeah, I get that. I get that also. so
Okay.
Pass that around.
Trying to flood us with paper?
5 copies.
Already. File. It's like it is pulled up.
It's pretty much the aquifer.
Sure.
Site safety. Give me a fresh break. Thank you. Thanks very much. Well, then this is red.
Huge big burn. But this is, look at that map sometime.
So without straining my eyes too badly, what is that elevation?
Well, there's no given number that
No
varies.
number.
on the slope. So that would have to be determined by an engineer. Because the flood map doesn't give an elevation there. It's not AE.
Okay.
It's A, zone A. So if you had a house there and you wanted to know if you're in the flood zone or not, you could hire an engineer and they would determine if your building was in the 100-year flood zone.
A good rule of thumb would be the top of Merry Meeting Dam, the Alton Power Dam. That's holds back all that water. And if it goes above that, the cup runneth over and the lake gets full.
Yeah, the regulations just ask for it to be indicated on the plan. It doesn't ask for
The actual
any
elevation,
engineering
yeah.
studies or anything.
It just looked like, so as I squint, it looks like you're following roughly the 520 line. That's why that's why I was asking.
Actual flood map is different. It's pretty vague.
Yeah.
I've made it more accurate. Following the contours.
Groundwater sampling plan. Location of groundwater test pits.
There is no groundwater sampling plan that we have. We introduced one at one of the hearings, and I don't know what year that was, about what the state offers a town to have such a thing if they wanted to deal with nitrate that comes out of the blasting material and gets in neighbors' well, but it's voluntary for the town. The town would adopt that. So the town hasn't done that. It's in the regulation that you want a little sample place on the pit, there in the pit somewhere, a sample hole. We can do that.
Yeah, I mean, the monitoring wells are often done, but again, if you are seeking to not do that, then you can request a waiver.
We'll request a waiver. And you can always modify whatever you want out of the waiver.
Okay. Comprehensive site safety plan, and I believe that previously we looked at that and waived that, but again, a waiver needs to be submitted again.
Request a waiver.
Right. I think the last time it was just like a one sheet sort of,
Right, we're
A basic
overseen
synopsis.
by MSHA, which is a federal Department of Labor that actually annually inspects that pit
Or whenever they feel like it.
at whatever time they feel like.
Snow removal and storage plan.
That's a funny one. We can seek a waiver, but quite frankly, it's not operating in the wintertime. The snow gets stored wherever it falls.
Wherever the groomer actually puts it for the sled trail.
That sounds like an easy reason to approve a waiver, so I'd submit a waiver request on that, and just to keep all of our Ts crossed and Is dotted on this one. The brush / disposal locations. So I think this falls into kind of that consistency of storage sites and areas as well, because it shows one area shows a stump dump and then later it does not refer to that area as a stump dump, but as an excavated area. So just to,
Well, the stump dump and the brush and slash are two different things, because
well,
I would think they'd put a burn area for the brush and slash, because that would be the prudent way to dispose of it.
right, but I think my point is that the consistency in the drawings as well in
We
showing.
can locate one, but that's exactly what we either.
And
chip-
wait till the first snow and let it go.
Or have it chipped like the town dump does. Whichever's easiest.
No one has a right.
That's what I say.
It falls on- I think it falls on the cheapest.
Yeah, exactly.
So the number of blasting occurrences, I think on the application is 1 or 2 per year.
We're gonna modify that to 2 to 3.
And as such, should be added to the drawings. So the next one, the stump dump site as shown on sheet 1 should be indicated on the reclamation plan if it is to be in existence at that time.
It's not anticipated to be in existence at that time.
Reclamation plan as well should include seed mixtures, vegetation, fertilizer types, et cetera.
I think it does. It's just going to use native soil and
Yeah, there is
so I saw it
on there.
on, I think it's on the erosion control.
it's in 155.
Yeah, it's on the
too, I
erosion
believe.
control plan, but it also should be indicated on the reclamation plan according to the regs. Maybe you could just take that section and just add it to the reclamation plan.
On the reclamation plan, the phasing, how you plan to work your way through the site.
So
I believe
the-
that would coincide too with our updated AOTs once we do that.
that'll give you a better idea. So some
You will
dates.
also get a fresh, you know what I mean, as built plan or as the pit exists plan along with the reclamation.
So what types of sheets of the plan get submitted with your AOT permit? I'm just curious.
Yeah, that's how I was gonna go,
I
because I
think
mean, that
most
would be on
everything-
here if you're gonna submit them to the
I think there's gonna
AOT.
be most everything on here.
So all of the sheets?
I believe that's probably is that what we did talk last time, Tom, on the AOT?
Yeah, the AOT includes everything right to the end, reclamation,
Okay,
this plan here, basically.
okay. That's
Well, when you
just
say
was
this plan, I
curious.
mean, this is, we have, what, 7 sheets in front of us? So it's all 7 sheets?
Well, 6 sheets.
Yeah, it's technically 6. This
6
last one
sheets.
is the addition of an
I'm
as-built
sorry.
plan.
So 6 sheets will be submitted for AOT.
AOT isn't a new approval, it's writing a letter. Approval was done and it says when it expires, which it did last July or so, we have to write a letter. So we're gonna write a letter to them to renew that permit.
Okay, but haven't things changed since that previous AOT permit?
Not really, it covers the whole permit, It goes to the end of what we're trying to do, the reclamation and all that. So,
So I think every 5 years, an updated plan is supposed to be submitted. to
yeah,
Okay,
they asked for a letter, I'll send a plan and a letter.
yep, okay. That's all,
Okay.
all right,
I'm not gonna do a whole permit,
right,
as I understand it. I'm
Okay.
just gonna do a letter and a plan.
Again, plant materials indicated on the reclamation plan. And sheet 6 under reclamation notes, the note regarding ledge cuts should also include after 2-to-1 slope and with the 12-foot shelf.
Doesn't. Anyways, we'll do that, but I believe it's already on there.
Yeah, it shows it's on the drawing itself. It's not within the notes, and I'm not sure if that's all that.
right. That's what I was referring to. was
Okay,
the-
got
Was the note didn't include that. If
So then, continuing on through toward the bottom of page 2 here. 2, huh? 10-foot setback, northern property line appears close.
So I took out a ruler because it kind of seems like that northern setback line is pretty close to the property line as compared to the rest of the 10-foot setback on the remaining property. Unless it's my eyes.
Well, that's the scale, it's a large scale, so it's right, what you're looking at is right.
Yep. Okay, I just want to point that out. Just looked a little off. that's
Meaning,
all.
what she's looking at, it says 10 feet, it's at least 10 feet.
Yeah, if I scale it off at the right scale, it should be okay here.
Yeah, I see what you mean. If you look at that southern line,
Right.
it certainly seems like it's
There's a
further
little
away from the
space.
black property line, but again, that's,
That's printing.
that could be printing as well. The printer or the plotter. The address for the abutter tax map 6 lot 7 should state Alton Bay.
Mr. Chairman, there's actually one more correction that I found on sheet 1. And that's at the bottom where it says excavation setbacks. A butter is currently spelled OR and it should be ER.
Down the very bottom next to the scale.
Next to scale, yeah.
That should be an easy fix.
That's painless.
I find if I take my glasses off, it looks okay.
Graduated from Alton, it looks okay.
I thought you were spelling bee champion.
And the recording information listed on sheet 1 for book 548 should be page 218, not page 21B.
That was tricky to find.
Good catch.
Amazing catch,
Nice
actually.
am very thorough.
I'd say so.
Gaining that impression.
All right, and then on sheet 3, again, the comment about the 10-foot setback, which is, I think we kind of agree is it's a printing thing. Under explosive selection, the spelling of shall, and under muck pile management,
Where are you now?
page 3.
Page 3.
Notes.
Page 2.
Page 2. Okay, I guess I jumped.
Sheet 3, I'm sorry. Sheet
Okay, I'm
3,
sorry.
I'm on the bottom of page 2. descriptive work. Yeah, sorry. And then the final one under that page, under sheet 3 was the muck pile management. There is no A, therefore B should become A.
Page 3. That's right.
Still in the bottom of page 2, but referring to sheet 5.
Yeah.
Just the spelling of the word shall. And sheet 6, under reclamation notes, the plan is for grading and restoration of the pit. This plan is for grading and restoration of the pit. I get it. We can eliminate one of those lines. So the Miller Engineering geotechnical report, as we spoke about at the last meeting, I was amazed that I did not see a map of all the test pits. I thought you were going to get us one, and we're going to get the town engineer one. We have not seen that yet.
I will request that from Mr. Millender.
Okay. So and going on that their report was based on their review of drawings that this board had not seen. So
We'll get you what they used.
and I believe is the town engineer he needs to get those as well in order for him to complete his review. He has not finished his review. And
So
the,
can I just clarify something?
yes,
So you are asking the applicant to submit the plan entitled excavation permit renewal?
yes.
Okay.
As well as do we have that as-built?
So that
plan?
as-built plan is actually
in
what's here, and that was discussed at the site walk and provided to the town engineer.
Okay, excellent.
So the town engineer does have it?
Has the as-built, not the other
Not the
excavation permit
excavation
renewal.
Okay.
Yeah,
In the Miller testing.
he has
Right,
that.
or
Oh, he has that.
he does not have the map.
For
showing
the
where
location of
test
them.
were.
Okay.
Right.
Right.
Right, so the town engineer did review, or started to review and provided a quote of $3,000 to do the complete reviewing of the report and basically reviewing all the documents, so.
Excuse me, Mr. Chair. If I may ask the applicant if he had a chance to review this. And if he's in approval of it, then I can move forward with it.
Okay. So are you, have you had a chance to review that?
Yes. Letter, no, that letter from Tiggenbaum.
May 13th, 2022.
Yes, I did read it.
Are you okay with that?
Not really, you're cutting into my beer money.
Okay, so
At
besides
least he's
that,
honest.
Heavy beer money, Bill.
Yes.
So the final one was 16,000? That what we're talking about?
that's something different.
That's
That's,
the
that's
3,000.
something
Okay, got it.
different.
The review and the engineer.
Yeah. All right, so I'll sign off and I'll send it over to the town engineer. They can move forward with what they need to do.
Okay, so waiver requests. I think we covered an awful lot of these. So I think that you guys are gonna pull together some waivers.
Sure.
The next item was the minimum and express operation standards, and it was just kind of brought up in December of 2017 at planning board meeting. Russ Wilder, former planning board member, had stated that there were wetlands adjacent to the pit that had been drained because of the excavation of the gravel pit down below the water table. So it's something I think that we felt just needed to be put in here on the record, stated, and kind of refresh everybody's memory as well.
It is customary when you do an excavation, the water table does change. So
Oh, do you have any comments on that?
Yeah, at the sidewalk, I went up there and looked at where the wetlands are to see if that was holding water, and it wasn't. So I commented to the engineer, Dana Huff, that there would be more work to be done, and Keith has said that area slope is not complete. That's in the area where it's kind of in transition, being completed, so the more fill needs to be put up against that area to finish the slope. And then that should hold the water on the soil that's in the woods there, so
Mhm.
the water will pond in the spring and not drain.
Okay, well, certainly let the engineer that knows more about that, I think, work
I
through
think he
those
knows,
details.
He knows about that.
Yeah. Minimum and express reclamation and excavation standards. So one of the plan under the note section entitled operation. There's some confusing phrases, and it actually bounces back to sheet 6 as well. Loam and till save for final reclamation of the pit, and then disposal of the stumps and brush is in and will be in the stump dump area and the slope area. And then getting to page 6 notes.
It's under
Sheet
phasing.
6. It's under, the phasing, yeah. The pit is to be reclaimed. The ledge cut along the northern property line is to be incrementally restored as described above. And when you go above, it talks about the on-site overburden availability of fill is to be used for the backfilling and sloping, which is in contradiction to the reclamation statement on sheet 1. So it's just a little confusing here as to what, there's no consistency throughout all the plans of what is going to be done, when and where. And that's just what we're trying to sort out.
We can clarify all that. You have a comment on that now, Tom? or-
Yeah, I don't really get that. So the slope would be reclaimed from beginning to end. That's a 2-to-1 slope going for 900 feet. And the plans show that to be the material in the pit, which is glacial till material and so forth. It's not any part of a stump dump. There are woody materials in there and an occasional stump. That's identified in the Miller report. But all the stumps on the lot go in the stump dump. So there should be no confusion about that. There are stumps at the end of the pit. When we were there, we could see a pile of stumps. I would think those would be removed, or those could be buried if approved by the engineer. That's a possibility. That could be done, but all the plans say consistent soil from one end to the other.
Yeah, I think the issue is, to me, is that the notes are not consistent throughout each of the drawings, that one makes a reference to loam and till, and the other makes reference to on-site overburden and or available fill.
I can clarify all that. I can go through that.
Okay. Yeah, if you could just kind of sort through those notes and just make sure they jibe with each other all the way through.
Yeah.
And are consistent, obviously, with our regulations and the state's requirements.
So Chairman,
Yes.
at the meeting on the on-site, when we looked at that places where the wood was showing, I thought we had discussed that already, and what we saw, we thought was okay.
Well, I'm not qualified to decide whether or not that's okay. That's what an engineer is hired for. But the point here is that the record is inconsistent. The documents. That have been
I
submitted
realize
to the
that, but-
record. So, just trying to get it all consistent and accurate throughout.
15 years from now, when none of us are here,
I beg your pardon.
someone else is going to read it. Someone else is going to read it, and not know which applies. So if it's consistent, it makes more sense.
And also I mean, the fact that we are using, in this case, you're using stumps as part of this reclamation, that should probably be clearly stated as well. So, building that embankment in the reclamation.
Unless they decide that they're not going to put the stumps in and they're going to dispose of them in a different manner or fashion. At least that should be reflected on the plan, though.
Correct, right, but we've got 500 feet already done of slope.
I think there's more than 500
Yeah,
feet.
yeah, I was ballparking.
Yeah, we were approximately 2/3 of the way done.
Okay, so probably 600 feet plus. So that,
We'll
if-
clarify it.
yeah,
I
so
think,
if
yeah,
that is
exactly.
with the intent, and, I mean, if that's what's been done, it should be documented. If it's going to continue that way, it should be documented, or if you're going to do it something differently for the remaining 1/3-ish.
Documented.
That should be clarified. So.
If I might say, I guess that decision would be determinant of, what we're supposed to do with the last part of it, as far as backfilling. The rest of the slope, is it supposed to be free of wood, or, what I mean, can we continue? I guess we need clarification.
I guess that's up to the town
You
engineer.
should
to make
probably
the
follow
decisions, right?
155E.
Well, it said,
So the embankments are shown in there, how they should be done and
But
what's
that should
acceptable
be
and what's
dependent
not.
on what the town engineers comes back with a recommendation around,
Well,
correct?
he's got to go by what 155E
Right.
says. I mean, that's the holy grail.
yeah, the AOT permit, I mean, wouldn't that have something to do with this?
Well,
as
that will reflect 155E, I would certainly imagine, and how it's done.
And this actually goes on to off-site wood cannot be buried within 25 feet of the property line.
We can get a zip code on a stump.
And must be at least 4 feet above the seasonal high water groundwater table, excuse me.
4 or 6?
I'm
I
sorry.
thought it said 6.
Stumps, it's 4 feet.
4 feet.
Oh,
4 feet.
So again, when I looked at your drawings, it looks like that TOA slope is well within that 4 feet of the high groundwater. So that might be a consideration. And of course, the AOT permit is clarified here, overrules everything, so.
Spring, I mean, everything's gonna do it.
So it also talked about in our excavation regulations, that stumps and slash generated during the site preparation shall either be chipped or used on site for erosion control or removed from the site, unless the site is approved by the state to allow the stumps and slash to be landfilled. So that's more onto that AOT, and I think we have to defer to the AOT, on that. Oh, next section, talked about prohibited projects. Excavations within 50 feet of the boundary of a disapproving abutter or within 10 feet of an approving butter unless the approval is requested by said abutter. So this got into some interesting stuff because I believe that our attorney has advised that the abutters need to approach, and help me out here, Jessica, approach us to request that we approve.
Right, do you want me to help you out?
Oh,
with this
please
section?
do.
I could tell he was floundering there. Water was up to his nose.
So this section was a little tricky. So like Drew said, I did go talk and have a consultation with the town attorney. We first started with what is a definition of an excavation? So there were some case law on that, and according to some of the RSAs, an excavation included not only the removal of product, but it also included the reclamation portion of it, according to the case law. And I think I did give you a copy of that.
Just so you know, I disagree with that, but go for it.
And there are some disagreements here. So that was just the determination of the town attorney that in order for you to work within the 10 feet, that the Conservation Commission and the Manx would have had to have requested from the planning board to give an approval for you to work within that 10 feet. So that was sort of his determination
Okay.
of that explanation. So the Conservation Commission and the Manx both feel like that wasn't their sort of determination that came out of that. So they didn't feel like they had to submit an official request for an approval. But they are both willing to be limited approving abutters in order for you to go forward
Complete.
with the work. So limited as in, just that, not for, the operation of the excavation after the fact, things like that. They're limited approving abutters, so you can get the work done.
Which I agree with, because that was the goal in the first place, was to finish the reclamation.
Right. So they
Couldn't
disagree.
seem to come to any agreement to
Yeah.
accomplish that.
They kind of disagree with the town council's determination of having to submit that request to the board. So I'm going to leave it up to the board to decide how you kind of want to go forward with that.
Well, one thing too on this stuff, the Minks came into this kind of after the fact. And they weren't the owners when this was first done, so where does that go? I mean,
What happened was, it was that withdrawal of the first application. So that approval.
Resets the
right?
clock.
Yeah, so that approval from the Steels was no longer valid because
yeah, but they had
that
approval to begin with to
submission-
do it. And how can you turn that back up on a new application? That's a little odd.
It's the submission of a new application.
I understand
But
that.
it's a process.
But it was an existing process that was there. How can we hold them accountable for something that was allowed in the first plan and may not be now under different people? I mean,
Well, I think
That's
just
like
for
double jeopardy.
clarification, I don't think it was I don't think the excavation to within 10 feet was ever officially allowed. It just came to light and that's kind of what has triggered a lot of what's going on here within the 10 feet or at or slightly over the property line. So I don't think that was ever granted. And yes, in the previous application, yes, it was, but that application is withdrawn, so it's off the table, so we have to start all over again.
but it was built to that previous one. That's my point I'm trying to make. We're putting a double jeopardy on this by moving to a new application, which is, I get it. It's a new thing, but it was excavated under a previous approval. So,
And by, Steel was an approver, an approving a butter. It wasn't until after it was already built that it was determined that Concom wasn't a butter too.
Yeah, so
So it's built.
yeah, so just so we're clear, my understanding of this anyway is that the approval that came from the Steels was after the fact. That was not, hey, I'm within 50 feet of your property line. I'd like to come a little closer. Can I have your approval? That's not how that worked. It was already too close. And that's when all of this gets stirred up and you got the letter from the Steels at the time, but we determined that the Steels were not the only ones who had rights to that land. The Concom had rights. So the Steels couldn't just grant the unconditional release of that. But I understand what you're saying in the sense that the damage was done. I mean, we all get that the damage has been done. What we're trying to figure out is what's the best and right way to restore and make everybody happy.
Right, and that's the track we're on now.
Right.
yeah, it sounds like we're moving along nicely.
And I think we're getting there. There's a lot of hurdles to overcome because there's a lot of legal mumbo jumbo that we got to make our way through and wade our way through so that we don't find ourselves in trouble 3, 5, 10, 15 years from now. Or be setting a bad precedent for another situation in another pit somewhere someday. So.
So, Mr. Chairman, so my recommendations will always follow the town council's advice. As, the town planner, that's how I
You
should.
need to do that.
Right.
We get that.
At this point,
So do we.
so, at this point in time, maybe the board should just, discuss whether you guys want to, give an official approval just to kind of cover the bases on this, that he can work within that 10 feet. Just so that it's on record.
I'm confused.
So our town council is saying that we can't just grant that approval, that we have to receive the approvals or the request for us to make that approval from the abutters. The abutters don't necessarily see that regulation the same way. So my recommendation would be is that we grant the conditional approval to work within that area as long as the abutters also approve of that operation within that area. And
So
I
here's
think
where
we've
my-
covered ourselves.
Here's what my confusing is. He doesn't want to work in the 10 feet. He just wants to put it back
Sloping.
and leave.
He's trying to repair it, but he has to get in within that 10-foot area to repair it. That's the problem. So we have to give him permission to repair it.
Is that the case? So in
Yeah.
order to repair it, he has to go in the 10 feet?
Yeah.
So
Isn't that what the Manx and Concom letter is saying? I've never heard of a limited approval, but aren't they saying?
Yeah,
Yeah,
more or
come
less.
within the 10
They're
feet.
not requesting the board for approval, but they're saying, they would be a limited approving a butter.
It's-
So
it's-
more or less, they're already saying
If
it.
I may, and I know it's a legal mumble jumble, but that court case, I vehemently disagree with the interpretation. A simple analogy I was talking, if that shellacked cabinet out in the hallway, if I want to put new shellac on it, I'm doing something to something else. If I am restoring an excavation, it's because it's different than the excavation. That case was the pit operator just scraped down the slope and left a 45-degree slope. He excavated to create the slope. Keith is restoring. He filled in the hole to create the slope. It's totally different. It recognizes as both the RSA and your own things that restoration is something you do to an excavation. And the word slope in your definition of excavation just is another example that a slope left of earth is part of excavation. But that's not filling the hole. Restoration, and that's why we have two different sections in this. It's a different concept. It's a different activity. So with due respect to your town council and yourself, they're wrong. I mean, it doesn't make sense. It's illogical. And the case doesn't say that. The case says this guy left a slope, and that's why it's part of the excavation. Keith is filling in the hole to create the slope.
Yeah.
So there is no jurisdiction of Concom over this.
Yeah, I don't know if town council's right. I don't know who's right here, but I think that for us as a board to operate sort of within town council's recommendation, I think that we should approve this conditionally as long as the abutters approve of the operation. And those abutters obviously also include Concom.
Mr. Chair, the Manx are in the audience. I'm believing that David could potentially comment regards to that. So.
Right, we're talking about interpretations of an RSA and
As far as requesting of the planning board potentially to fulfill your, requirement.
right, but Conservation Commission won't, is my understanding. So I believe that this is our best approach.
And I think you're well justified because Concom doesn't have jurisdiction. It's not an excavation. It's a restoration.
Right.
I don't know how else you could characterize it.
No, and I recognize your interpretation of that. I don't necessarily agree with your interpretation. I lean a little bit more toward our town council, but I'm not an attorney, so.
I have chocolate and vanilla.
So if it's the board's pleasure, I would think should we vote on that?
I think you should make a motion and vote on it.
Okay, so I will make a motion that the board conditionally grants approval to operate, put it that way, within the 10-foot setback, as long as the abutters have also granted approval.
For restoration of the slope.
For restoration of the slope. Yeah, thank you.
I'm confused. Do we have the abutters approval?
You just said the Concom is not going to approve.
So.
No. I said the Concom is saying that they do not need to seek our approval, is what I'm saying.
I think they're saying, their letter is confusing. They're at the first sentence, they say.
So, well,
they
let's
don't deem it
we'll get into their letter in a minute, but I think to get over this little hurdle here with this particular issue, I think if we can have a vote on that or amended or.
So to get the first step for a conditional approval from
Right.
the board. And then deal with the second abutters is the next issue.
Correct. So we'll get into the abutters letters.
What's the condition? I think that's.
The condition is that the abutters also approve of this operation to restore the slope within the 10-foot.
Shouldn't
Setback.
we see the butters letters before making that decision?
They're in the
So-
package, but I think we
right.
need to talk about that.
Well, I
in a
think we should
second.
discuss it as a group.
Yeah, okay.
Just my opinion.
if the board agrees, then let's do it. So,
I'm sorry, I didn't hear. What did you say?
My
Scott?
mention is what, we should be privy to the letters that we received at this point in time.
So you
There's
should have-
questions in those, I would say.
Yeah,
have these.
The answer is there.
In your packets.
I think.
So if you want to go first to the Conservation Commission's letter, which is dated May 13th.
Is that in part of your packet here?
yes.
Yes. It's addressed in number 4. So at the way bottom of the letter, that's where they address this particular issue that we're discussing right now.
This sheet. The last sheet.
Right there, there we go.
So I mean, the Concom is not approving a butter for any purposes related to the applicant's commercial excavation. So they're saying they're in favor of doing the repair,
The reclamation.
the reclamation.
Correct.
So they don't have a problem with that. That's perfectly simple.
Well, I don't know if it's perfectly simple. I mean,
The answer's right here.
I agree with you.
So we can move back to that motion. Right here, it's as long as.
Yeah, so-
Banks say the same.
If I could make an observation, and maybe that's a modification of any condition, the last go around, which doesn't exist because we were through, Comcom wrote a letter after the fact, and the board changed their position. And that created all sorts of problems. I would like whatever decision is becomes, this is it. Concom can't come back and say, well, I changed my mind.
I'm sorry, I don't think that's correct.
Yeah, I don't recall Conservation Commission changing a position.
Their position was always that they were in a butter.
Yes, but it didn't come out. They didn't show up at the meeting. So there was that they wrote a letter afterwards, I believe. They wrote a letter afterwards and they expressed that. The board originally gave an approval. And then that was changed because Concom, I think Jim said, you can't do that without, if Concom comes in, they came in later. That's all I'm saying. All I want to know is if something happens today, we can live with it. So we don't have to revisit it.
Well, at the time, I believe Russ was here and spoke on behalf of the Conservation Commission, expressing their perspective that they were in a butter.
Whatever
Yeah.
reason.
So
Nothing, it changed after
All right,
the
so,
letter, but that's all.
so just, so that,
I don't really care. I
that's,
just,
that's
say
old
that's all
stuff. So,
history.
and it's not my memory that Conservation ever changed their position, whether it be through letter or through presence, but
I'm not saying they changed, the board's decision changed when they got the letter.
We had to.
Yeah, okay.
So-
I get it, but I'm saying we have a letter here, so I just want.
We were violating a law, otherwise,
so we have a letter here from the Conservation. I don't anticipate they're going to be changing their position on this, and the board is about to make a
Sure.
decision based on this letter in hand. So so I think that with their item number 4 from Conservation, that we're clear on what their position is on this.
But I don't see that the Manx have a position on repairing the slopes.
They do. It's the second page of the letter. It's in the addendum and it starts with, in agreement with the Conservation Commission, we also do not think it's necessary for us to be an approving butter for Green Oaks to construct the berm/slope. So they're in agreement with the Conservation Commission, so they don't feel like they have to submit that request to get an approval. They
So
just
we're
feel
easy
like,
enough to
So-
grant approval
It's
to
the same, it's the same language.
right.
Fix it, yeah. Yeah, it's right here.
So both the butters are in agreement that you can work in the 10 feet. I think it's quite clear.
so that gives them the green light based on the conditional
Yeah.
approval from the board then, correct?
Right, with all the,
Right.
whatever comes after that.
is there any restriction as to when work can be done or?
That hasn't been discussed yet. There are hours of operation.
That, well,
On the plans and, yeah.
I think what the board just needs to focus on right now is you either approve or not approve for him to work within the 10 feet. It's like very limited. That's what you guys need to make a motion on.
So.
It's
so that
pretty much a
motion-
So the
no-brainer.
motion is there, right?
I mean,
The motion's been made.
all
The
right.
motion's been made. Did we have a
Someone-
second?
I'll second it.
Thank you.
Okay. Do we have any further discussion on that?
Could I ask
Just a
that you
point,
read
though.
the motion?
I made the motion.
I know, I can't remember exactly what I said.
He'd like you to reread it.
Oh, yeah. Can I paraphrase?
Sure.
Yeah, he'll leave out something though.
Basically, the board is granting approval to work within the 10-foot for the purposes of reclamation of the slope and the flat top, the 12-foot flat top, as long as the abutters also have that approval in place
Should we also include maintenance,
and maintenance. Thank you.
periodic maintenance?
Yes, we should. I would like to amend that to include maintenance.
Bill.
I'll second it again.
There we go. Thank you.
Spending your beer money.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Oh, and Tom, you're abstaining. Thank you. Okay, so I think we made it through that one.
That was tough.
That was easy. So bond, part of the RSA 155E4A reclamation bond or other security. So we have a $10,000 bond that was put in place with the withdrawn application. Is that correct?
Yeah, so at the last application, the board already, yeah. It's existing, $10,000.
Okay.
On a withdrawn application?
Right. Throughout the withdrawn application, that
And we still have it?
$10,000 went into place. It, because it needs to be in place. Well, that's another question of addressing a bond that's put in place on a withdrawn application.
Yes, that is a good question.
I think that would have to be extinguished and then the new bond because it
Yeah.
goes by. the
Doesn't cover the same
Right.
stuff.
It was tied to that withdrawn application.
Yeah, I agree. So the applicant submit an updated certificate of continuation yearly. These are some of the requirements. Board should require that security, excuse me, shall be recalculated every 5 years. Existing restoration bond dated September 6, 2018 shall require a calculation, but that was the one we just said we're going
Right.
to nix.
Do away with that one and come up with a new one.
We'll come up with a new one.
Excuse me, the 32, you getting rid of that or come up?
No,
with-
the old $10,000 one.
Okay, yep,
Yeah.
got it.
So the Concom letter and this, I'm confused on this. So the Concom letter does a series of calculations. I'm sorry, in the backup for the letter that comes up with a dollar amount of $16,000, 3,200 a year times 5 years. Assume that a 10-year period is required, which yields a 5-year amount equal to, that's where this 32 comes from. So $16,000 to be renewed every 5 years.
Well, it's 32,000 for 10 years.
Right.
I think one of these things modified it to 16, right?
Right.
Right, so
Was 15.
originally I sent out an earlier version, which was only 15,000 and the correct one is for 16,000.
That was for 5 years, right?
Why are we, I'm having a
And then-
problem.
then
because
Concom
in
took it and
5
doubled
years,
it to 10
All right,
years.
hang on one at a time, sorry.
go ahead.
So my understanding, the town engineer came back with the 16, right? For 5 years, and then Concom looks like they doubled it for 10 years.
That looks correct.
Yeah, I believe you're correct.
Right, our regulations require every 5 years that the bond be recalculated. So that's where the 5 years comes from.
Right, okay.
So why are we going out 10?
That's that's
That's
the
what was
request
put in
of the
by
Conservation
Concom.
Commission.
So
Well,
it's
you
a
know, that
request.
thing's is gonna grow in eventually. I mean, Mother Nature is gonna take hold and saplings gonna come and, you know, birch trees will come, then the pine trees will come and, you know, it will evolve and stabilize itself. And that's really what we want to have is a good root system in there and that will hold it together. So I would not be in favor of going out 10 years. I just don't, in 10 years, 5 years, that could be almost a small forest with 3 to 4 inch saplings.
Well,
in
I
there.
think there was some mention here of maintaining a 14-foot wide level area for equipment.
But what equipment?
No, that's not correct.
Well, what does it say then?
The top section of the slope is actually tipped back towards the bank property to shed the rainwater in that direction to help regenerate.
But they wanted, it's
So
somewhat
we-
level to maintain it in case there's a,
Correct, but it's not for equipment. It's simply for rainwater. So we're asking for permission to actually access it with small equipment to maintain it as needed if there is any depressions in it.
And I think you discussed that at the site walk.
Correct, I did. Yep.
Okay.
And that was my understanding as well, is
Yeah.
that that top slope is primarily intended for that, for shedding back into the
Correct.
butters
And, you know,
properties.
with a fill of that magnitude, you know what I mean, there will be some settling over years. That's normal. No matter how much you compact it. I mean, you're talking a 30+ foot fill.
So Scott, to your point about the 5 years, so I mean,
He's
my understanding is, I guess, is that this gets reviewed after 5 years. And,
Yeah.
and if it appears that more needs to be done, then probably that bond would get renewed.
Then you can address it at that point. Yeah, right. Let's not put them on the hook for all 32 right now. I mean, because that's, it's not equitable, I don't think.
Right, and the thing with that is this is laid out as the disapproving a butter currently. These are the things that they're requiring to become an approving a butter. So we can't change what they're requesting.
Right. Oh, I get that.
Yeah.
But
Right.
they're all in agreement with getting the slope and getting it stabilized.
But I think our point is they become a disapproving of butter if you don't go for the 10-year bond at 32,000.
Well,
Okay.
that paragraph, if you note, there's two sentences. The first sentence says Concom requires applicant to post a bond. The second sentence is Concom requests a bond of 32. It's not a requirement. Request. I
Yeah.
don't know what Concom does. So I'm saying they made the point of using two words. One is a mandate. It's requiring. The other is, I'd like it. It's not a requirement.
I would feel that the bond running concurrent with the 5-year bond for the pit would be probably the best approach. Then if the bond could actually be reduced, you know, I could ask for it to be reduced. at
Yeah,
that
depending
point.
how it looks in 5 years.
Correct.
So just want
That
to
would be the
clear,
right way to deal with it.
are you suggesting that to do the $32,000 bond and then just request it to?
We're going, so in the
Reduction.
5-year, when we come back in to discuss the bond for both the pit and the slope, we can either A, determine that we're going to continue with another $16,000 bond, or B, you can release the bond based on the stabilization and the growth of the slope.
What are you saying? Run with the 5-year period.
Yeah, okay,
Right,
that's
because
what I
I'm
want,
coming
yeah.
in- Right, because I'm coming in for the pit bond itself, which apparently is going to be a different surety bond altogether. Or we can post the bond as one. We determine what the amount is,
Keep them separate.
Yeah, I would say
Yeah.
keep them separate
Yeah.
as well.
which is fine. I
Yeah.
don't
Makes
think
your
there's
life
any
easier
additional
for
cost.
release.
Well, the thing about it is if something doesn't go right here, you don't want to be hung up over here.
Yep.
But I think where this has to be revisited in 5 years, I feel we've protected the neighbors, you know, and then in 5 years, if it doesn't look good, then we'll say, hey, we gotta either call that bond and fix it or add to that bond.
So
I think, you know, what that Jessica's recommendation here that we should ask for the Conservation Commission maybe to clarify what they were asking for, because I mean, they provide backup for 16 grand, but then ask for 32. And
In my opinion, that looks like a wish list.
Right.
But you don't want to have them to come back here
Right.
again. I mean,
Right.
just on the word
I
request
think,
becomes
you know,
the issue.
And Tyen Bond did the takeoff.
Yeah.
So we should feel comfortable with that. And this is good for 5 years. The next time, we'll address it in 5 years.
Yep.
I mean, everybody's protected, I think.
It's
I may
it's the
speak.
reasonable middle ground.
In 5 years, what happens if it's grown up so bad that you can't get in there to fix anything? So that's what you're looking for.
Then
is a
that
good-
16,000 bond can be called.
Yeah,
you Right.
call the bond back.
Well, either that or release it if
Doing well.
it's doing what it's supposed to be doing, growing trees, retaining the water, shedding it back.
exactly.
So
I think for sake of kind of closing the loop, though, I think I would like to ask Jessica to approach Conservation Commission and see if you can get a clarification.
They could be here.
Yeah, they should be here. They should be here. In this case, gets kicked down the road every time because they don't come here. He basically already covered it. They said request,
Exactly the same.
not shall.
Right, but what I don't want to do is for us to make any decisions that are then going to the Conservation Commission saying, no, that was actually a requirement. So
Slope stable, it's growing.
Then it should have
you
been written
understand?
Yeah, it should have been written as a requirement.
Are we
I
children?
I feel we're giving them double jeopardy.
Well, they are saying here, though, that, you know,
I'm with you on
they're
that.
not going to become an approving a butter
So,
unless all of these commitments are made. So I mean, you know, I think what the point is if by getting Jessica to check on this to make sure that we can't shorten it to a 5-year period. But
The
if you
5-year
just,
period was
just
laid out by
shorten
the
it and they say, no, we're not going to do that. Then down the road, it's a problem.
Isn't it our engineer that came up with the 5?
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah.
So
Why do we have an
why do we
engineer?
Have an engineer if we can just make it up however we want.
They're not engineers. Why do we have to go with,
Yeah.
understood, but they are an abutter.
I understand that if we don't, apparently if we don't agree to these terms, they're not gonna.
Yeah, I feel we're being held hostage.
Yeah, it's kind of like you
Yeah,
just.
and what I'm hoping for is that there's a misunderstanding of how the bonding is calculated is what I'm really hoping, that the $16,000 for a 5-year bond, which can be renewed after 5 years.
Mr. Young should have been here as a chairman. Plain and simple. And they have not graced this room once through this whole thing, which is shameful. I feel it's shameful.
I think we should get a clarification too, because it does say right here, after consultation with the town engineer, the Concom requests a bond of amount $32,000. Now, there could be confusion there, but I think, I agree. I think Jessica reach out to them and just get clarification before we make a decision.
And
You know,
really,
from
I mean, 5 years is $16,000, but right above it, it says it is assumed that a 10-year period is required. So I suspect there is a misunderstanding in the Conservation Commission on how the bonding works.
And they may not know that this has a 5-year renew clock in it.
I agree.
Right.
So I think for the sake of closing that loop, there's not gonna be any decisions tonight. There's way too many outstanding.
Oh, I
items
get that.
anyway.
I get that.
So
Yeah, I get that. But I mean, I just think
Maybe
we're
we should
offering.
have a strong directive to Comcom about what the board recommends here in that discussion, instead of leaving this wide open,
Can
going
you-
around circularly.
I
so
agree. So if you
Yeah.
can give me some specifics.
Like what Scott said, that it's 5 years
There's a 5-year clock.
Yep.
and, right.
And they'll have to renew it in 5 years. And that should be totally acceptable.
well,
I mean,
yeah, to
because
clarify,
that gives them the opportunity in 5 years to readdress this. They can walk down there and walk the hills and do whatever they want to do and say, no, we have a problem, or no, things look good.
Right, just to be clear, though, it's not just a blanket renewal in 5 years. It's an evaluation in 5 years and a redetermination, maybe only $5,000 needs to be bonded, so at the end of
Point.
first 5-year period, it will be reevaluated and walked
And
and
his permit relies on that,
yes.
his operation permit.
Scott, the one thing is they have to, by law, do an inspection every year.
Okay, that's
And
fine.
that's mandated by the state because the state was the one that handles all the conservation easements. So you have to submit your reviews to the state and then the state, corresponds back with you. So it's not something that you do by happenstance and check on it once in a while.
That's fine. I mean,
Yeah.
but they definitely will do it in 5 years because we're gonna be talking about this again in 5 years.
So,
Concom has been walking it every year, so that's their protocol.
They have to.
so I think the recommendation of the board is a $16,000 bond for this purpose here, for a 5-year period. But what we also want to go back and, the $10,000, we get a new $10,000 bond as well, right?
Right, so if.
Swap the old one for a new one.
Right, if the
Yeah.
For a
board
different application.
can give me the permission to contact the bonding company to release that $10,000 bond that exists today. And if you guys can discuss if a new $10,000 bond is sufficient, or if it's to be a different amount.
Just to clarify, the $10,000 bond is to cover what versus the $16,000?
So the 10,000 is for compliance with the excavation regulations.
Okay, so that's the excavation portion. The 16 is the reclamation portion.
The 10,000, I would always have thought would be part of the reclamation. I mean, that would be planting loam and seed on the flat part when he's done. That's what that 10,000 I thought would be for. Because you want the site naturalized once the operation is complete, right? I mean, so I thought that's what that was, 10,000 for. The 16 is just the slope, only the slope. Am I right in saying that?
Right. the
Correct.
10
Okay.
Right, the 10,000 was for reclamation.
Of
Yep,
the-
so I'm sorry.
No, no
I stand
problem. I just
corrected.
wanted to be
Yep.
Right.
clear on that.
It's also in case there's any slumps and they have to do out of the quote unquote 16.
Well, I think, if he's there and he sees a sinkhole in it, he's gonna run up there with an excavator and dump a couple of buckets of loam in there and tamp it down real good and put some seed there and keep on going. I mean,
Right, that's why I asked that the two bonds are concurrent so that we can assess and review, you know what I mean, and possibly eliminate one if the slope stabilization is satisfactory to everybody.
Right.
Because we are running two separate bonds.
Okay. All right, so moving on, excavation standards.
So I'm sorry, can I just clarify? Are you just gonna go with the $16,000 bond?
That is going to be our recommendation, but we want to get Conservation Commission on board with that recommendation.
but they need to be clearly advised that this is a 5-year permit.
Mhm.
And so it's not that they can't act in 5 years, they can, because when he goes from year 5 to 10, if they aren't happy with what they see, then they can say, okay, we want another 16. And, we can address that in 5 years. I mean, it's not shutting the door in their face. It's giving them an option to carry on with this if need be. But, I mean, why should the man have to put up something out 10 years where he's gonna be back in 5 years and redo it? I mean, it just,
Yeah, I've never heard of anything carrying out that long.
right. Oh, I agree completely.
Yeah.
And, as I said before, the Concom sits at the pleasure of the Board of Selectmen, and maybe the
Sure
Board of
does.
Selectmen should, set some ground rules out for them.
I'm convinced there's a misunderstanding about how the process works. I'm
Well,
convinced.
if they were here to listen to all this, they'd have a better, because some of us have been confused here and there. We've cleared it up.
Yep.
All right, I think we got that nailed.
All right. So
Nailed to
under,
death.
Under excavation standards, notice indicated on the plan regarding the excavation being within the aquifer permit, aquifer area, but the area is not indicated, and we kind of covered that.
Yep.
We now
That's already
have
done.
a
Check.
line of aquifer. So, and the rest of this, the excavation aquifer, these are all just regulations.
Yep. I think we could go to that next on excavation limit.
Yeah. So maximum excavation limit. So documented seasonal high groundwater level is indicated on the plans being 531. And this is supposed to be doing any final excavation grades shall be not less than 6 feet above the documented seasonal high water table, which would be 537, and yet I think you're well below that. So. So, but this goes on to say that, you know, you can be granted an exception as long as you can prove that it's not affecting water quality or quantity.
Well, I can address that a little bit. When the regulations came out 5 years ago, which is new regulations, I read them and I thought the 6 feet above ledge was kind of an outlier. I thought that was out of whack. But after the last meeting, and I've been talking to Keith about RSA 155E, how they allow vertical walls, I realized this is not a gravel pit anymore. It was
Right.
before him. He bought it for ledge. Now it's a kind of a quarry. Quarry has vertical sides, so we've been restoring the vertical side with a slope. That's because we need to put that dirt back, right?
Yeah.
But other than that, it's not the same. It's a quarry now. And I never really caught on to that till like a month ago. So this 6 foot to the water table doesn't apply because you're gonna get down to the water table or even below that. For practical purposes, he's 2 feet above it anyway right now, I guess.
Yeah, it sounds about right.
Yeah.
So,
The break where the water drains to the back of the pit's probably close to 4 feet, a little better.
so are you saying that if you change the classification to become a quarry, that the excavation regulation here doesn't apply?
Well, you can move on from this and go to the next one. It sort of doesn't apply. So if you had a gravel pit and you wanted to reclaim it, you'd want to have 2 feet above the water table, so it's still usable land. That's how Turtle Crawl Campground is there, because it's 2 feet. You can have septic systems, or you could have houses built. You go closer to the water table, you're ruining the land.
Yeah.
It'll never be flooded, unusable, will grow up to brush and everything else. But if you keep it 2 feet, as in all the regulations there, then it's can be buildable. Now, when you say 6 feet, that's not the same thing. This is not above the water, water table. It is above the water table, but it's ledge, okay? It's becoming a quarry, and it is a quarry.
Okay,
It's a little, you gotta step outside the gravel rules a little bit.
yeah, and I guess I'm not sure that this is specifically to gravel, but perhaps it is. And
Oh, yeah, it is. There's no,
but on that note, some of this work is occurring over the aquifer as well. So, I mean, how does that affect?
well, the aquifer is where sand and gravel is, so he's not in the aquifer zone. He's in the area outside.
Yeah, ledge isn't usually conducive to
To
water. I mean, you'll get seams in it and water will travel
yes,
through it.
exactly.
Hence, that's why we get a deep well drilled, because there's seams in the thing and there's water in there. So
So Tom, you're saying, right here, you're saying that the excavation below the site will not adversely affect the water quality and quantity?
Well, the 6 feet doesn't apply is what I'm saying. Really,
Okay.
I think that's out of whack. So,
There's no aquifer below the floor. Guess is really the
Right,
the
but there
truth of the matter
are,
because it's solid rock.
yeah, so.
It's not in like a sand-based aquifer.
Yeah,
where
a sand base,
where
the
you
sand
would
there,
have
it's actually
material.
floating on the water, so to speak. That's why when you compact material that's on a aquifer, you feel it half a mile away.
Yeah.
If it's on ledge, you won't feel it 3 feet away.
Right. So this map, which I understand is kind of a loose line, I mean,
no, that's accurate. That map is accurate. We're outside the aquifer. That shows with that blue line here. Blasting ledge, and we were parked, we were on that line, but
yeah,
on that is in the glacial till area. It's not all ledge.
right.
ledge.
And I agree. I mean, it's glacial till and ledge, but you also have the veins, as you were describing, that run through that, and contamination can very easily seep into the aquifer.
Yeah.
I imagine it would seep from the aquifer into that because you'll have a depression here and water up here, and it's gonna seep, it's the low point. So the water
It will.
infiltration will come in to that if he goes into the ledge.
It will migrate whichever is the path of least resistance, and
But when,
That
if
could
he goes
be
lower
going
than the
into the
aquifer,
aquifer
it's
as
coming
well.
in.
so it could, so. So I guess we're looking at this whole thing as a gravel pit, and now you're telling me it's a quarry.
Yeah, I would call it quarry now. We're in the quarry business. We're everything we're doing.
So should we start all
Oh,
over?
we could ask
Oh,
for-
boy, yeah.
We'll just flip this over and start from the beginning.
You gotta get.
We can either ask for an exception or a waiver,
Yes,
dance around it.
yes.
I think we need to get some opinion about a quarry. I don't know what it is myself, so.
Yes.
So get a waiver for that? Okay.
So the material processing, and your application, I believe, or the excavation plan, rock crushing is typically done 3 to 4 times per year with mobile crushing equipment.
Correct.
Now, I have a note that I'd written, if limited to 5, is that okay?
Limited to 5 what?
Uh, Occurrences for
Blasting?
crushing operation. Just saying, instead of a kind of this vague number, putting a fixed, it's a little higher.
Last 5 times, you crush 5 times.
Yeah.
He's saying he's only gonna do it 3 to 4 times a year, so saying, well, we'll say, no more than 5 times a year. That way it's.
Yeah, I think that would be reasonable.
That's reasonable.
Knew I
Other
wrote that
thing-
note for a reason.
The other thing we need to talk about is the transfer yard. Because of bringing the septic sand in from Ossipee.
Yeah, boy, I wish that could happen again. Driving to hospital for septic sand is not fun.
You go down to Boston to get the same stuff.
Yeah, well, it's a longer ride to Boston.
I don't think we want to muddy the waters with that right now, though.
It's gonna be one of the things though.
No,
on
Ossipee
the-
sand goes to
Was on
Boston.
the old plan.
Right, and I think to make things, to make things a little clearer, I think that would or would not fall under the need for contractor's use. And I think that was discussed through the last application,
Yes,
and the board deemed that that was not necessary.
okay. As long as that's the case again, include it in the notes.
Did the last application talk about, did you have the sand available throughout the last
Yes.
application? Okay. And the board deemed that that was not necessary.
I think that was right.
Do we need to address it again, though, in
Yeah,
this
I think it's a
process,
new
just so that we've
application.
got this whole
Application.
clean?
Yeah.
Yep.
I would.
Probably should.
So let's make sure that we get that passed through this time around as well. Okay, so items required for final approval. So we talked about the restoration bond. We kind of have covered that already. Traffic and or environmental impact studies if applicable.
That's a state road. We never do traffic
Haven't changed
studies on a
anything
state road.
In 15 years.
Yeah, so I think
Cross that off.
cross that one off.
Yeah.
Right,
See to
and-
that.
And that's probably why it was indicated as NA on the checklist.
And there's very good visibility.
These are
from
just
that.
Oh, yeah.
items. They're just items as like the
They're in the-
bare
I
minimums
get
of the
it, yeah.
requirements, yeah.
Well, they're in the checklist, so.
Yep.
And any other approvals, permits, dredge fill, blah, 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 all that other stuff, and you're pursuing all that, right? Are going to with the AOT.
Correct.
Yeah, and the state. Okay, so I think as I mentioned earlier, that I would recommend that we continue this to our next meeting.
And that is the
And that is-
21st, is it? I think it's
June
20.
21st,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah, June 21. I think given opportunity for everybody to get all these finite things gone through, I don't think it's anything that's not insurmountable. I think we can pull this off.
So we're gonna contact the COMCOM on that.
Yes,
We should give them a time frame that they must respond.
How often do they meet?
They meet,
Oh, they can,
Second
they
and
they can have a
third-
special meeting.
Fourth?
I don't think we
First
should push
and-
this out.
second and fourth.
Fourth, yes.
Thursdays
Second
of
and
the month.
fourth Thursdays.
Okay, so
Yeah, so
six-
that should be twice.
Meeting's on the 26th. Yeah, they should meet.
What's that?
Next meeting is on the 26th.
26?
Thank you.
So let's say we request a reply on the 27th.
I say by the end of the month, by
Okay.
May 31.
Fair enough.
So that'll give them a chance to actually write the letter.
Yep.
From our standpoint, will this be a 50-year application?
Automatically it is.
Okay, right, so our material calculations will be based on the 50-year
Yes.
timeline. Okay.
Yep.
Then most of us won't be worried.
Yeah, I'm not gonna worry about it in 50 years.
My luck, I'll still be stuck here.
Um,
So
Right.
maybe get the wheelchair chair working by then.
It's because my kids won't let me die.
So I'm also going to request, I know, Jessica, that you're buried, but you got a good grasp of this. And if you could put together a bullet list of planning board action items, applicant action items, conservation action items, I think that would be really helpful and to get circulated.
Like a
to
flow
the-
chart.
Yeah, to the board and to the applicants, so that we kind of all have this refresher. We covered a lot of ground tonight, and I just don't want something slipping through the cracks for next meeting and there'd be a reason to continue again. I think I really,
Yeah, we need to wrap this up.
yeah. I
Yeah,
agree.
absolutely. It needs to be wrapped up.
So. And if you guys want to share any of your notes, please do.
Sure.
So,
Because the stress this has caused to the business community has been dramatic.
Yeah.
And especially now that we're paying $6.50 a gallon for fuel, it cost me $1.67 a mile in fuel alone in my 10-wheeler. A mile.
So would the board be amenable to a conditional approve if for some reason that the DES could not push through the AOT, which I'm going to suspect that they probably can't because they're severely understaffed. I've talked to Mr. Blachazik a number of times.
I've been told 45 days as they get an answer out.
Well, it's
That's
an
what I've been
AOT
told.
permit. So
have you submitted anything yet?
we were waiting to make sure that we weren't going to get shot here at the planning. So we will get going on the application now that I know that
Recommend you do.
we're moving forward. I have no issue with that.
Yeah, I know.
The board have anything else?
But I sat with Rich Monk and he told me 45 days.
All right, I'm sorry, what was that?
I suspect it'll be 45 plus for them because AOTs are not necessarily, you know what I mean? I don't think they're kept to a timeline like a septic permit or anything else.
Well, I have a quick question for you in that case. Is it necessary for him to have an AOT to do the repair work?
I don't think it would be, but I don't.
I'm just trying to verbalize it, so.
A good question.
Yeah.
I don't think it is. All right, so I think. are there-
Tom has a question out.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Is it conceivable that they can do the repair work without an AOT?
I don't think so.
I don't know. That's what I'm
I
asking.
mean, it's by definition, it is an alteration of terrain.
Right.
Yeah, but didn't you have it originally have an AOT? This is a renewal?
Covers that.
This is just a renewal. It expired in June or July of last year.
All for reclamation?
Yeah.
Correct. And they have a copy of the plan, so we just got to renew it. And again, like I said, DES is understaffed like everybody else, so like. Mr. Blachowicz is a wonderful guy to deal with, actually. He's very good to work with on the OTs because we've done a number of them.
Good.
So I will speak with him and try to get a timeline.
Okay. I think before we move off of this case, I'd like to open this up to the public as well. If the public has anything to contribute. Oh. You can just state your name for the record.
Lauren Carr. I think a lot of people in the public would be happy that this pit opens up again. I think it's costing a lot of money for people. It's a plus for the community. I'm glad you people are working toward hopefully open this up. But I have some concerns about this conservation committee, especially, I don't want to use the word blackmail, but when they said they're not going to approve unless you get a bond for a certain amount. That doesn't sound right. Really doesn't. And I may be a little bit off subject, but I wonder how many people realize when they put something in conservation and the conservation's involved, now the conservation committee considers them part owner, co-owner now? That's what they're saying. They're co-owner, correct?
Well,
They're
they're-
not going to approve the
they're-
10-foot?
Yeah, they are the stewards of that land. They're there to
Yeah.
protect that land now.
I hope that people realize that.
Yeah.
From now on, when they sign the paperwork, I don't know whether the planning board ought to do something that people realize exactly what people are signing away. I wonder if the original people who signed this paperwork realized that this could come up like this.
Yes,
This is
they
kind
did.
of scary, really is. It's kind of scary. You sign a conservation thing and then they become a co-owner and they have a authority over
Yeah.
to your plan, your land.
Well-
In
well,
order to create a conservation easement, you have to have a special real estate dealer who deals only in conservation easements. They evaluate the property. That's submitted to the state. The state is the one that makes the actual decisions, but you can't do it without a total legal document. So your lawyer, you can't do it without a lawyer.
Well, I hope,
And most lawyers who deal with it are specialists in conservation easements.
I hope the people realize.
And they know exactly what they're doing
Yeah, well,
because
they-
all the requirements are written in, they're all downstairs. You can go take a look at them.
I'm not here to argue. My opinion is, I really question whether people realize after the night hearing that this conservation group, they're an advisory group. They're not even elected. They're appointed by the selectmen.
That doesn't matter. The state gives them through the RSAs, the control. The town voted years ago under a motion by Jim Washburn to put the conservation easement property and the town-owned properties that are held by the town under the care and custody of the Conservation Commission to protect them.
And I'm saying, I hope people in the future realize the consequences of what we heard here tonight. Thank you.
Okay.
May I make a statement?
Well, wait, we'll come back to it after public.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh,
So anybody else in the public? Hearing none, close the public session. Lee?
what Tom Hoops is saying is correct. But you do not have to go through a lawyer. You can go through the New Hampshire College. Because I'm in the process of going through a conservation right now, and you don't need a lawyer. And I can still be the person that decides how close somebody digs to my property line, bills to my property line. I'm still owner of that property.
One always retains the property, but when you create a conservation
You
easement,
do not
you are
give up your
basically
total
selling
right.
development rights to the state.
You're just selling the development rights. But that does not give you the right, because I'm
Right.
going through this right now. I can still tell somebody if it gets, if they want to dig up to 10 feet from my property line, they can. That is what I'm saying.
Everything depends on how you write out the conservation easement, and you
All
can
right,
vary
so-
conservation easements in many different ways.
That's why I'm agreeing with Mr. Carr over here, saying that not, what you're saying is only half right. Things have changed over the course of the
All right, I'll
year.
let you guys,
You're
Moving
wrong.
on.
you guys can debate the rules and regulations and variants of
Well,
conservation.
Well, let me say something about that. I was told that I could not speak to other people on the board members because that's considered a meeting.
Not about specific,
Well, that's what he and I would be talking about. would be
sounds like you're talking
specific.
about generalized conservation commission rules and regulations.
Which is something to do with the planning board.
What's that?
Which is what the planning board is saying, is they keep saying that Concom has the right to say what can happen within that 10-foot.
That's right. In the state,
The landowner also has a right.
yeah, but just.
They
just so you-
share in the.
Right, they share, right? They both have,
They share, but the homeowner's got,
But
More
Concom can't do
right.
a whole lot without the approval of the Board of Selectmen, I don't think.
well, they also are bound by the laws of the state. And-
Correct,
And
but
just,
it's-
in this particular case, the town ended up going to court and it went to Superior Court. And it was determined that Conservation Commission did have the right to grant or not grant that approval to excavate within the 10 feet.
This went to court?
Yes.
See, I didn't know that.
yeah,
Superior
I
Court.
did,
Superior.
because I was involved.
All right.
That's what and then you kept telling me I should learn more about it. I was involved because I was involved in the logging operation part of it. That's why I kind of just sat here and kept my mouth shut and
Yeah.
never said anything after that. Because I'm not able to vote and stuff, but I'm agreeing with Mr. Carr over there that what is going on isn't.
It's also cost the town a ton of money.
Yeah.
On themselves, because they used to buy a lot of aggregates from there.
Yep.
And
I say we just got to get moving on with this. and
Absolutely.
Stop letting this
Amen.
Comcom run the show when the landowner has already, from my understanding, has said everything that he's doing is fine.
The legal requirement, once a conservation easement is created,
okay,
is that the land is held either by the town, the state, one of the land preservation groups. So there are many different people that can hold it, the rights. Those rights then are controlled by that group, but they still have to report back to the state. They have the obligation to maintain the requirements that the donor actually makes. So
Well,
if you want to put your land, you create the list of things you want to
We move
do.
this on?
yeah,
So, all right,
So I
so,
disagree with what,
okay, let's
Yeah.
move.
so what I,
totally.
Gentlemen, thank you.
Yeah.
I hope you've enjoyed the debate here.
Root canal.
I'd like to make a motion that we do a 5-minute recess.
Yeah.
As well. So,
Great, thank you.
thank you.
Members of the board, thank you.
See you next month.
So all those in favor of 5-minute
Bye,
recess?
Amen.
Aye.
Aye.
Steve, did you shut the recording off?
Trish.
Trish, did you shut this off?
Now we're back on.
Here comes Tom.
And here comes Tom. All right. All right, so we're gonna call this back to order at 8:42. Thank you. Can't see that far.
It's your age.
Thank you.
Get your glasses.
Moving right along. The next case, P 2216, completeness review, Kemperland Holdings LLC. 6-7 Drew Hill, final major site plan. And this is for that contractor's yard.
P 2216, right?
Yep.
Yeah, okay. Bless you. Is that first place on the right on Blue Hill Road?
No, it's down a little ways, isn't it?
Yes, on the left-hand side a little ways after a small pond there.
Yep.
Oh, okay,
Yep.
yeah, yeah. He was there
Excuse me,
last
Mr.
month,
Chairman.
Right.
Yep.
Excuse me?
Yes.
There is I'd like to address an item under completeness, which was regarding engineering plans and reports. It has an N next to it,
What page you on?
page
Just
2.
2?
And it said that a waiver was going to be submitted. The report has been submitted in the meantime. The waiver was something that Scott and I kind of bounced back and forth a little bit, but he decided that was best to submit the actual report and not submit a waiver. So that's actually a yes.
Oh, so they did.
They did
They
submit it.
submitted it.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. That's all, Jess.
That's it.
Here's that everything is here. I'd be willing to entertain a motion for,
I'll make a motion that we accept case P 22-16 as complete.
second by Brock. Okay. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any against? Didn't think so. Okay, excellent. All right, you want to give us the
So you should
lowdown?
probably
Oh,
address
the
that
waiver.
request first.
Yes, I'm sorry, the one waiver request. So, yeah, I'm sorry. So we do have a request for waiver from section 4.02 F37 requiring a landscaping plan.
I thought we discussed that a little bit.
I thought we did.
In
too.
essence, he's so far off the road, I don't think much is necessary.
Correct. During design review is a time to talk about the waiver, but
Yeah.
you can't act on it until the final application,
Very
which is
good.
why it's addressed again.
All right,
Mr. Chairman, I will move to approve the waiver, section 4.02, F as in Frank, 37, requiring a landscaping plan.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Bill. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Excellent. Now, Scott, sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the planning board, Scott Waller from Norway Plains Associates, the civil engineer and project manager for this project. With me here tonight is co-owner Jeremy Kemper of Kemperland Holdings LLC, seeking major site plan approval for a contractor storage yard located at 67 Drew Hill Road. That's tax map 19 lot 32. It's located in the rural zone. It's a large tract of property, 33.48 acres. It's not located in the aquifer protection overlay, nor is it located in the shoreline protection districts.
The Kempner Land Holdings received a variance from the Town of Alton's Zoning Board of Adjustments on February 3rd, 2022, for a special exception to allow a contractor storage yard at this facility. It's a gravel, we're proposing a gravel driveway that comes in off of Kemper, Drew Hill Road. And it travels approximately 450 feet up to a proposed 40 by 60 building, 240 square feet. This building will be used as the main facility for an existing landscaping company, which currently has 5 employees. In this building will be a office space, a bathrooms, and basically general areas for vehicles and equipment storage. The Kempners have already received the town Department of Public Works driveway permit for the location. The contractor storage yard will contain mostly 1-ton pickup trucks and other small trucks, dump trucks, skid steers, and mini excavators associated with the company. There will not be any stockpiling on site and or general large landscaping materials. They will have storage inside the building or underneath 2 shed style lean-tos on each side of the building. This facility will rely on an on-site septic and an on-site well for their employees' use. There will not be any retail business conducted at the site, so it's not a place that they generally receive people coming to see them other than potential clients of Kempner Land Holdings. Excuse me. We've prepared a complete stormwater management report and analysis. We're taking the stormwater that's generated from the proposed building and graveled parking areas and driveway, and we're directing it to a sediment forebay and then eventually into an infiltration basin. That infiltration basin will promote groundwater recharge and treatment of the stormwater. There is an overflow spillway that discharges the stormwater such that the water leaving the property under the proposed conditions meets or exceeds the town's requirements for achieving the pre-development rates. So essentially, the proposed development will not increase the amount of stormwater leaving the property, both in rate of discharge and total volume. As part of the stormwater management system, we've prepared a stormwater management inspection manual and maintenance and inspection manual that was part of the application package submitted to the town. And that outlines the proper maintenances and inspections of the stormwater management system. The applicant is aware that he needs to follow this and provide the town with yearly reports indicating that he's done the inspections and performed any necessary maintenances as required by that's outlined in the manual. Notes have been added to the site plan requiring to put on notice that this maintenance manual is located at the town of Alton's planning department. We are proposing a couple wall-mounted down-shielded lights, and they will have color less than 3,000. There is no proposed dumpster on site. All trash will be removed by the owners. Similarly, excuse me, it's a big word for, yeah, this late at night. The applicant is not proposing any signage other than the E911 street address sign. So there will be no proposed business sign located on Drew Hill Road. As noted, we were asking for a waiver, and we do appreciate the board's granting that waiver. Given the size of the building and discussions with the fire department, there will be there is no proposed fire protection required. Some minor details will be worked out with the fire department as part of the building permit process, i.e. making sure egress doors, smoke detectors, things like that.
As noted in the planner's review, this project only requires one state permit. It is a requirement that we provide an NHD subsurface approval that will be submitted as soon as we obtain conditional approval from this board. And we anticipate approval very quickly thereafter. On a federal permit level, the only state federal permit that this project triggers is the need for a construction general permit through the EPA due to the size of the disturbance exceeding 1 acre in size. So the applicant will be required to notify the EPA through the NOI and create a stormwater pollution prevention plan, SWIP plan, and submit required or perform required inspections as outlined within the EPA. When we were at the design review, there were some questions and comments that came from the board. They asked us to show the relocation of the conics on the plan. And the plan that's in your packets and shown on the board, we do show the location of that conics to be installed on the east side of the building, which is outside of any areas of visibility, nor is it anywhere not near any jurisdictional wetlands. We've also, further comments from the board, we've noted on the existing features plan, a pond, and that's located on site. And we've corrected the hours of operation so they're consistent with both the narrative and the site plan application. With that, either myself or Mr. Kemper will gladly answer any questions this board may have. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
I have one. Septic tank inside the building?
No, it is not. It's located under the pavement, or excuse me, under the gravel.
Careful.
Yeah,
That's close.
Yeah.
Is that a
Yeah, the tank
lean-to?
is to the east of the building, and then if you go north from there, it's the leach bed's out there under the gravel.
Right,
I know
but
what the leach bed is, that's outside the building. but
No,
shows-
Oh, they,
that's a lean-to. There's,
Are
you're
you
gonna
talking
park,
about?
you're gonna park,
it is,
Oh, yeah.
like the proposed building.
yeah, it's a lean-to,
are you gonna park anything on there?
This one, Rich.
just storage of things.
Where does it say lean to?
Well, that's what these wings are.
That's what those wings are, it's just lean-tos.
Go to.
Now, I say that.
Yeah, it does.
Go to
14
the
foot
building
lean to.
floor plan. Go to the building floor plan, it's there.
The building
Right under
depiction
the
A1.
60 by 40.
Yeah, exactly.
In most septic system designs, we like to get the septic tank as close to the building because of the slope from the bathrooms to the tank has to be 1/4 inch per foot. Once you leave that, it can go to 1/8 inch per foot. So typically we try to keep the tanks close to the building, but we'll work that out with
5 feet.
DES approval.
The leaching system, is that gonna be chambers? I take it by the square? Yeah,
Absolutely. Yeah.
As I could tell, it appears everything's been addressed
in
that we-
order.
that we had raised in our previous review.
I have no further questions.
Yeah.
This
We're-
is- We basically did the homework last time.
We did a lot of homework last time.
Public.
Any comment from the public on this case? Hearing none. All right, close the public session. So there are a number of conditions precedent. I'm sorry. Yeah, we did the waiver, right?
Yeah.
We took care of that.
Yes.
I think those are all minor in nature. Excuse me. And basically, and they work right along with what you discussed in your presentation. So I would
So there's a couple things that the board should address. Is whether or not a pre-construction meeting is going to be required and funds submitted for an escrow account for observations.
Okay, let's do the scope of observations, what you want to do.
Yeah. So the scope of observations obviously would be the construction of the stormwater management. Driveway, the building.
Driveway is pretty well built.
Plus, there's a big pothole in it. I imagine he's gonna fix it. Do we have, is this the estimate from KV Partners to do that work, or I see something here from them, so. But there's no number attached. This should just be like a one quick visit by a supervising
Are you
engineer.
talking about the May 11th?
Yeah, yes.
That's just his review of the
Of the revisions.
of the revisions, and that he was okay with everything.
So he will be the, KV will be the Valley,
Yeah, he'll
will
do
be the
he'll do the
supervisor.
observations, yeah.
So.
So
yeah.
he hasn't given us a number, what it'll be to
No, not
to
yet.
supervise anything.
I just wanted to confirm it with you guys first.
Yeah. Well, I think we should just limit it to the drainage system.
And
the
that's usually
stormwater management.
what he observes,
Yeah.
so that's
Yeah, I agree.
reasonable.
So we're just looking for a one-time, when he's got it done, he'll notify you and you can send him out.
Yeah.
I mean,
There may be, it may also, he need to, I'm sorry, it is getting late. I'm having trouble forming sentences now. He may need to also review the actual construction of the ponds, the process going in and the materials going in to make sure. But I can't see more than a couple of visits here,
yeah.
really tops. Well,
What type of,
Can I ask a question on that?
sure,
What's the turnaround time of that?
a day or two, usually they're fast.
yeah, of you requesting the inspection and then
In
being
terms
there?
of him coming out so that we can keep moving with the
Right.
project?
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
you,
he's pretty quick.
Okay.
Yeah. It's not like weeks later.
He's somebody you can work with too.
Scott, what is the design of these?
They're just, basically you're constructing the berm because the bottom of the basin is generally at grade. In this case, because of the depth of seasonal water and making sure we had the separation. So essentially, the contractor will have to construct a berm around the perimeter of the infiltration basin, install the outlet structure, do some riprap between the.
Between the two?
Yeah.
Or
between
three,
the
I should
two
say.
Sediment forebase. So it's not a complicated, it doesn't have like biofilter media or sand or.
That's what I was getting at, stone, sand and bark mulch and all this stuff.
It's relying on the soil type that's out there, which is good draining soil.
So he'll remove the topsoil and just have a vegetative
Base.
base. There's not much to, for a second inspection. That's my point.
Yeah, yeah.
I've.
That's all
Yeah,
pretty
I
much.
think
sand
you're
and
probably
gravel.
right. That probably could be banged out in one inspection.
Yeah.
I was thinking there was more involved in.
You said when he's done, you have him call, he goes out and inspects it, it's done.
Yeah.
I think that's.
It's all sand and gravel up in that area anyways.
All right, so we need active and substantial within 24 months. The following must be completed in order to constitute active and substantial development or building. So I think we do our usual construction of the stormwater management.
That's the nuts and bolts. That's what could be bad.
And substantial completion will be, final completion of the plans as submitted and approval by all authorities.
Yeah, and if you don't do that in 2 years, you can come back for an extension.
Yeah.
But I imagine you want to get this done.
Sooner rather than later.
Okay, so I will entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, case P 22-16. Kemper, who the hell, Land Holdings, thank
LLC.
LLC, thank you. I move to approve the plan as presented, subject to conditions precedent and subsequent conditions.
Yep,
And,
actually,
excuse me,
I'm sorry.
and the engineer to do a single inspection at the completion to see if the stormwater management is done properly.
Yes, I apologize, but there was one addition to subsequent conditions.
Okay,
And it was to include another note that the notice of decision shall be recorded by the planning department at the Belknap County Registry of Deeds at the applicant's expense, which is what we've done with all
yeah,
prior.
that too.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Excellent.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board.
Good luck, guys.
Thank you,
Thank you,
gentlemen.
guys.
Welcome to the Alton business community.
All right, next case for us, P 2217. LCW Family Trust, lot line adjustment. Rural zone.
Somebody here to represent them?
No, I think there's a gentleman back
Yeah,
there.
come on up.
Yeah. Come on up.
Come on down.
What do you, Monty Hall?
Date yourselves.
Well, it's easy.
I don't remember.
Should have had Scott do this for you. Not that Scott, the other one that just left.
All right, so our first step is obviously to verify that this is complete. The application is
Long
complete.
time. Long time
Long time.
since I've seen you.
32
years.
Yeah,
So Jessica, it appears that everything was complete.
you made it.
Downstairs.
Notice to mortgage holder, if applicable, checklist indicated a check mark as provided. The board should confirm if one is applicable as a notice was not submitted. So,
Just confirm with them.
yeah, so do we have a mortgage holder?
No, I own it outright.
Okay. So that's an NA on that, on the checklist items that we had on the application. That should have been an NA.
Thanks for speaking up, because it's not 1988 anymore.
All right.
Dream on.
All right.
Waivers.
So with that being said, it appears that this application
Should we do the waivers first?
so I'm following her lead
Yeah,
here.
well, we usually do the waivers and then do completeness. That's what we've done in the past.
So these waivers don't have anything to do with completeness.
There you go. She's, okay, so we'll do a subsequent conditions then, right?
He's learning.
Yeah,
It
Precedent.
bad
may
for
or
a
may
few.
not be, right,
Yeah.
depends.
well,
So we can get through the completeness aspect first, and then we can
You all set,
address
Jess?
the waivers.
Mr. Chairman, I will move on case P 22-17. LNC LNCW Family Trust as complete.
Okay.
You're all right.
All right, so we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
All right, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None. Okay. So we have the following waivers submitted. Section 7F.7G show all jurisdictional wetlands and the 25-foot wetland boundary. So, oh, we don't have reasons for requesting the waivers?
Reason for requesting the waivers is because of the size of the lot.
Oh, Supposed to say that right here. And that would be the same reason for section 7F.7H, showing all areas with slopes in excess of 25%,
That's correct.
as well as section 7F.7I to show the minimum contiguous upland area required by the zoning and ordinance for each lot excluding jurisdictional wetlands. Yada, yada.
Correct.
Got it.
Roughly, are there any substantial wetlands at all? I mean, we have nothing to go by.
Lots of rock.
I am not a certified wetland scientist, so I
No,
can't, I
but-
can't speak to it.
There's no wetlands on that.
That's,
Yeah, I mean, it hasn't been since the beginning, so no,
I mean-
nothing's changing or getting built or anything. I'm just,
no, the question would have been whether or not where the roads and things go
no,
would be impacted and require DES permits.
it's all there. No.
That's, but I mean, basically, that's why we have the requirement.
I understand, Tom.
Now, this cul-de-sac down bottom here, is that the county road? And then this is Lindsay that comes through here?
Yep, the cul-de-sac is down on County Road and then Lindsay Road is up top, yes.
And is that Chelsea, the connecting road?
Which one?
I believe that's Crystal Road, as listed on the plan. I think
Okay.
it might have a sign on
It
the
says
road that
Chelsea,
says Chelsea
I
Road.
put it up for a flying squad.
Okay.
All right, I'll take it down if I.
There you go.
Just to confuse 911.
Well, I called it Chelsea's Way because she had her way for the wedding. but,
Out of curiosity, on the original lot where the water pump was, what are the discontinued lines along coming from County Road? I mean, was there a road there or?
The discontinued lines coming from County Road, there were lots there.
Oh, those were 3 lots in phase 2. And I never did phase 2. That was that.
So it's not an old road or anything like that?
Are you
Well,
talking about
actually, there's a real-
the continuation of County Road past the cul-de-sac?
No. On the, on lot, if I can see it,
Well, you can see.
lot 26, you have right on the,
Now, that's a tote road. That's off of Lindsay. That's a tote road that goes down to
County Road?
County Road's way down the bottom. Well, it's up the top of this right
Yeah.
here, Tom. It's up
Yeah.
here.
But there's a road that goes from, or parts of a road that go from Lindsay up to County.
Are you talking
Right,
about
Crystal
Road?
That's Crystal
Right,
Road.
they
That's
changed
what I
it.
just questioned a minute ago.
No,
Yeah.
on
No, I
the,
think he's
right on the border.
talking here.
Oh, I see. I believe there was an old tote road there. I don't believe it was ever deeded out. I don't think it was ever a planned road.
I just, it was on there, so I'm curious.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just been,
It doesn't connect to each other, anything?
it was next to the sap house down.
Okay. And where does County Road, his County Road,
Is the one with the cul-de-sac on
it
it?
ceases where the cul-de-sac is, that's where it becomes class 6?
I believe so, yes.
I guess the question then would become, what happens on lot 12?
Where's that?
That's what'll be remainder of the.
No,
other
that
lot-
goes to Chelsea. That's gonna go to the trust and her and the other ones.
But I mean, will it be connected?
Lindsay Road continues up through the pump station across the entirety of the proposed lot, tax map
Right.
16, lot
But then,
26.
and then it's what looks like a wood road that goes into,
It's already a constructed road and it's a private right of way.
So it's a constructed road. I mean,
It's like a
But
tow
it-
road.
but I mean, if it's is it an access road to that lot?
Yes, so that will be the access to that lot.
So it would be the drive, if somebody wanted to do something with that, that's the driveway.
Yeah. Yeah, I was able to get up it in the springtime with a two-wheel drive truck. So it's a well-built road.
With no, but that lot will have no frontage.
It already does not have any frontage. It already has a private right-of-way that passes through the original tax map 16 lot 26. And it has a deeded right-of-way through there. We're gonna deed out a continuance of that right-of-way to access the remainder of the lot.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
I can just note that I did talk to the code official about the fact that there's no road frontage. And I did actually have a lengthy conversation with Steve Oles about it as well.
Mhm.
Ordinarily, you would have to have the minimum road frontage. But John was in agreement that a variance was not needed because it was already existing. And a variance would not have, a
Wouldn't have
request for
helped
a
it.
variance wouldn't have fixed anything.
Right.
It's a no road frontage, to begin with, and it will be no road frontage afterwards.
Yeah.
Just to clarify that. And one other note, I think you guys should finish up with the waivers before you go any further.
Good point.
Yeah, we kind of skipped over that.
Yeah, you did.
So we've read through the waivers, we've identified them. And so I would entertain either, 3 waivers, 3 motions, or you can lump them all together.
I'll do it. Okay, Mr. Chairman, I move to approve the waivers section Roman numeral 7, comma, F as in Frank, period, 7, small g, section 7, comma, F, period, 7, H, section 7, comma, F, period, 7, I is an idiot. Sorry, I didn't, I just want to make sure everybody, there's not a lot of I words. Ingenious, there you go. Approve them. So.
Okay, so we have a motion. You second? All right. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No. Excellent. That was no opposed people. Okay, now we can get back to the nitty gritty. Excuse me. All right. So the board have any additional questions or comments?
What's this line here?
Excuse me.
So this is going to be the actual boundary line of the property. That is the line that's going to be going away. So this is the original lot
So
here.
this becomes that?
Yeah,
Can you
correct.
point on the easel over there?
Of course, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So the original lot, 16 lot 26 is here. And the original lot 1612 is here. So the original outer boundary of the property goes around here. We're eliminating the line in blue and then moving it over to here. So this lot will now encompass map 26 lot 20, excuse me, map 16 lot 26. And the green here will be map 16 lot 12. Both lots are going to be over 40 acres at the end.
And the access to that larger lot is the tote road that's depicted here in the hash of Lindsay.
That's correct. So the road here to access the original lot has already been deeded out as a private right of way. We're going to extend that private right of way over the existing road as it exists today up to be able to access the new proposed lot 12.
Has anything been built up in there yet?
My question. Should we suggest that he make this section of road right here as part of the deeded right of way, not just to the boundary line?
I think he just needs to bring it to the boundary line
I
because
know he
we're-
just needs to, but I mean, if for any future,
Saying bringing the deed from down here.
no, you've already got a deeded right of way all the way to here.
Yep.
And I'm saying, in case you ever wanted to split this off or something,
I think that would run into a problem because they would have to provide road frontage if they subdivided this lot.
This lot in
in
the
half
back.
again.
excuse
That
me,
would
well,
require,
he'd still be over 20 acres.
I know that, but frontage is the key.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
The reason we're doing what we're doing for my estate plan is so there is never a subdivision.
Mhm.
It's that simple. I just, it's, no.
Okay, there you go.
That's the number one priority for my kids. The way it is.
Have you designated the right of way for a width?
Have I done
I
what?
believe it's 25 feet. is what
I
we
didn't
did.
see anything on here. That's why I asked. I mean,
Yep. Yep,
usually you find that in a deed, but
Yep, that's correct. It's a 25-foot right of way.
So that could not be increased to a roadway because there's not enough width. So
Correct.
Never
what
gonna
he,
be
that's gonna,
that's
gonna back up what he just said.
And it will still give adequate maintenance to be able to rebuild ditches or
Sure,
anything else.
get
like
power lines and whatever else.
that. Correct.
There's just a detail, but
Co-op's gonna love you on that one.
the print for the
It's a lot
actual
of poles.
lot line adjustments
Getting the power
are
up
actually
here.
different from what's in the letter in terms
I
of
know that.
acreage.
I'm sorry, the acreage difference?
They're
Oh,
inconsistent.
Okay.
the total amounts?
Well, lot 26 on the print is 48.71 and it's 47.29 in the letter.
Oh,
And 41 point, is it then 26.7 on the print versus 25.2, I think, for 26, lot 26. Small detail, but they're inconsistent.
Yep, I do see that. The inconsistencies between the map acreage there. That one says in the letter right here.
Details.
So it should be 48.71. It's 41.47.
reversed a number.
It's that new math.
Yep. I think it's late enough in the night. I could blame my boss on that one.
Typo, is that what it is?
Yeah, it's a typo.
Yeah.
So to fix that.
I don't know if it's
So
a typo.
the
I
letter
think
you believe is incorrect
I
in
believe
the,
the letter is incorrect. Yes.
Okay.
My wife writes.
Be a
down
much bigger
telephone
problem if it was
numbers
incorrect on
with
our plan.
numbers
Right.
reversed.
It's a letter you think it's.
I believe so.
Thank you.
Could you maybe have Steve submit just an amended letter with the corrections?
I'll have it to you first thing tomorrow morning.
Perfect.
He's got a strict boss.
Still plenty of time between now and morning.
For what?
Yeah.
Sleeping. I don't have any more questions.
I don't either.
I don't either.
Everybody else good? All right, so open this up for public comment. Hearing none, close the public comment section. So just so I'm clear. So precedent, we are going to get a corrected letter, right?
Yep.
And should we have on the drawings, the width of this roadway and reference to the extension of that roadway being transferred?
Do you have meets and bounds on that right away?
We will have meets and bounds on the
Okay,
right of way.
I think, and if you do the width, I think that should cover it.
Yeah, okay.
So I'd like to just add something, Mr. Chairman. So I just checked the assessing database for map 16 lot 26. And the assessing database states that the existing acreage for that lot is same as it's listed on the letter, not on the plan. Just throwing that out there.
I will make sure that the acreage is correct, either in the plan or in the letter.
Yeah,
And I
it
will let you
states
know tomorrow morning.
25.29 acres for lot 26,
Okay.
which is what it states on that letter. So just fix that.
You got it.
I'll make a motion. Case P 2217 that we approve with conditions precedent, adding the corrected letter and subsequent conditions.
Second.
Okay. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
You're done.
Any opposed?
Oh, I didn't recognize you.
The girls will be happy.
Thank you.
It's been forever. How you doing?
So-
Yeah, 30 years. How you doing? You look good.
I'm still vertical.
Yeah, yeah, good.
See you later.
It's important.
How do you get so deaf?
See you again.
Everybody's that deaf.
How
old is Lindsay now?
Not a little child.
Right.
anymore.
Yeah.
You were there when I was
There's a
changing her diapers.
Yes. Stay well.
Take it easy.
Good night.
Hey, Scott, nice to see you.
Good to see you, man. Yeah, long time.
See you later. Thank you, gentlemen. Ladies.
Thank you.
Okay.
One opinion with my lawn.
All right, so case P 2218, we have a letter here requested to be tabled until the June meeting.
Of course, yep, okay.
I'm okay with that.
Yep, I'm good.
Case P 22, case 20, sorry, P 22-08, Saco Alton 1 LLC, final minor site plan, multifamily structure.
That's the one down at the bay,
That's the one down at the bay.
Correct.
which is now green
And,
instead of purple.
That has been withdrawn.
Okay.
All right. I tell you what, at 25 minutes after 9, I would like to make a recommendation that all of the committee updates be tabled until next meeting.
Oh, we used to have meetings that went to 5 or 12.
Yeah, well, he's old now, so he's got to get home and take his Geritol.
I tell you what, that 5 a.m. moves fast.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
before you get any further,
down that road.
yes, so the Alternative Housing Committee update, I really would like you guys to address what's written under here, under small I, because we do have people in the audience that have been waiting this whole time to address one more application for a citizen member to sit on the committee.
Yeah,
Um,
I'll move to approve that.
so
Yes.
you do have, in your packets, there's a memo, dated May 10th. There was an individual that contacted me and she wanted to see if she could fill in for Sue Ellithorpe, because she had left due to selling her property. I told her there were other applicants that didn't get picked the first time around, so I figured I'd recontact everybody, see who's interested. We did receive 3 responses from Vincent Bober, Marianne McCully, and Sherry Denard. And I see Vince in the audience as well. If I may, I'd like to make a recommendation. So I would recommend that the board approve Vince Bober's application. He was a big motivator for the committee to undertake this whole short-term rental discussion.
Yes, he was.
And in fact, if you remember, both Vince Bober and Bill O'Brien were the 2 individuals that came to a planning board meeting.
Lots of them.
And that's,
Many of them.
that's where this discussion began.
Yeah.
So that's my reasoning for it, and that's my recommendation.
Do we have room for 2? No, yes.
There, we had decided to have 4 citizen members, and
Okay,
currently we
then
have
we'll
3.
have that. Okay. So that 4 should be plenty.
Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
a lot of people.
If
on
we
that
get too
committee.
many, then it'll be just get confusing. No offense to anybody.
Well, I certainly am very familiar with Vincent. I think most of us here on the board are familiar with Vincent. And he has a lot of experience and a lot of input.
Yep,
Um,
and well researched.
Yes. Yep.
He'll take us all for a ride in his old boat.
So I certainly, I'd make that motion.
I'll move to approve Mr. Bober for the Alternative Housing Committee.
And I'll second your motion then. So, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
You got it, Mr. Bober.
You may regret it.
No, he was a huge input.
Yeah.
And it's definitely appreciated by the board.
Absolutely.
Well, also, I think the thing that's more important than anything else, he brought the seriousness of the case
Our attention.
to our attention, because people were really not that aware of it. I mean, I live it back in the boonies. I'm not on the waterfront. I don't know.
But this could happen in the boonies.
Yeah,
It could.
Yeah, absolutely it
I mean,
could.
it's not normally the same sort of impact because we're not compacted together.
I'd like to jump down real quick just to approval of meeting minutes. I had one correction that I had sent in to Jessica. And it was a clarification, the middle of page 7, the statement regarding the mapping of the test pits. And I think my statement was that I had never seen a report on test pits or borings before without a map identifying where they are.
Oh, yeah, that's customary.
So I was just clarifying that in the meeting minutes.
Mhm. And I'm sure they should have located all that stuff. I mean,
Yeah. So. Anybody else have any other comments? Did they review
Yeah,
the
just want to, I
minutes?
mean, there was the uncertainty about others present and attending, the Mike Courier. Should be Currier in terms of the April 28th.
right. Mike Junior, right?
Yep.
Mike Senior's no longer with us.
All right, where are you? On what
On
set of
the
minutes?
He jumped onto the
Just on the
The site
April
walk.
Site walk.
like unreadable.
Thank you.
Exactly.
Okay, any other comments on those?
I had one question, which is on page 8, bottom paragraph where it says that let's see, it's the third sentence. He stated it is necessary for the applicant and the Conservation Commission to work together on this to resolve it because he doesn't understand how they can have a fill that is not approved. I don't know what the fill is.
Phil, the type of material.
FILL or PHIL?
Well, no, but I mean, that is not approved by one of the acting parties. I'm not sure what actually occurred there.
Okay, I don't know. So right here. He stated it is necessary for the applicant and the Conservation Commission to work together on this to resolve it because he doesn't understand
Filing?
it can have a fill that is not approved by one of the acting parties.
I don't know if it's a material or
Or the whole solution, maybe. I mean, it's kind of,
I was uncertain. I was
Yeah.
uncertain, so I just didn't know if it was important or not, but I mean, I would, if I can't figure out what I said, I'm in trouble, but
well, apparently I agreed with you because the next sentence says that there will have to, definitely is going to come down to some form of compromise. So I agreed with you.
No.
Two faulty memories. I love it.
Is that with respect to organic matter, maybe?
That's kind of what I think it
Right,
has to
the-
do with.
whatever materials that were
Right.
being, that were being used.
Right here, no, this is the rail units.
Yeah, because it goes on to talk about stability of the slope.
Yeah.
So I think it really has to do with,
Okay,
with
okay.
the fill of the slope.
Otherwise, I'll make a motion. We accept it as amended, as corrected.
All right,
What are we correcting?
so that was just my,
Tom wants you to just find out.
It's the change.
Can't remember what it is, take it out.
There was no change, I don't think, was there?
no, the only change to those meeting minutes was my change, my clarification.
Okay,
Right.
which is just a clarification, because that's not what you said, and we can't change what you didn't say. You can just note it
What?
here. You can just
Can't
note it
retract.
here that what you meant to say, but that's not what you said, and we can't capture what you didn't say.
Oh, I bet you that's exactly what I said.
I can go back and look at it.
Yeah,
Roll the video.
check that out.
Okay,
So should it be amended? So we have a motion to accept the minutes as written, unless of course Drew is right.
As potentially amended. How's that for iffiness?
All
There you go. I like that wording, Tom. As potentially amended.
And that is for the minutes of Tuesday, April 19th.
18th. No, wait a second.
Yes. April 19th.
And then we had the site walk on Thursday, April 28th. We have minutes from that
Yes.
as well.
yep. And those are amended with career.
With the
Instead of unreadable.
attendee, like Courier. So are you just proposing the meeting minutes from the 19th?
Yes.
Okay. So, all right, do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any against? No. All right, how about the site walk minutes? I'll make a motion to accept them as written with a correction to the
Mike Carrier.
Mike unreadable.
I'll second that.
Seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
If somebody gets a chance to start working through some of the draft chapters of the master plan, I know it's actually good reading. She's a good writer.
I'll read it.
Right,
Yeah.
so can I just?
Don't look at me, ask him.
I'm gonna elaborate more on what Tom just commented on. So if you guys are going to continue the committee discussions to next month, if you can please read the master plan update in the meantime, so that way, if there are changes you might want to propose, or there's things written in there that you don't agree with.
What's the next
Questions?
housing committee meeting? The date? Because I was absent because I had to go to my kid's birthday party.
23rd,
Had to do it. And my grandson's.
I think it's the 23rd.
Those who must be obeyed.
About the same day.
Yeah, I think it's the 20.
May 23rd is Alternative Housing Committee. That's the next meeting.
Heavens, crap. There we go.
Okay.
And Lauren, you can show up at those if you want. Be sit in the public and. Okay.
Thank you.
All right. And a hard road to travel, the 2022 edition.
Right, they don't have it in paper anymore. It's just it's on
Online.
PDF. So if you want a PDF, just come to the office and I'll give you a flash drive. It's too big
You can
to,
probably get it on the state website, can't you? Or is it not a
no, you have to
state?
purchase that.
Ah,
Can you get it on a disc?
gotcha. Disc.
It's
Tom.
thumb drive, thumb drive.
How about a
Tom.
5 1/4 floppy, Tom?
I had some. I have my tape recorder.
It takes 5.5 trees to print it.
That's right.
I'll entertain one more motion.
Motion to adjourn.
No, you have.
Oh,
Oh, I'm sorry.
oh yeah,
I'm
public
sorry.
input. Oh,
Public input.
Public
yeah, come on,
input
that's
time.
not
I
public.
apologize.
That's-
Ah,
Gun.
goodness, I know.
Well, thank you. Lauren Cobb. I would like to talk to you about the CIP. I don't think any of you came to the deliberative session, but if you, well, maybe you watched on TV.
I was there.
I was there.
You were there.
I went.
Yeah.
You're
and
there.
Bill,
I
yeah.
was in St. Thomas.
Individuals get up and say, I'm on the CIP, and then they go on and they say, yeah, we ought to support this, et cetera, et cetera. Well, I had a problem with that because they're not on the CIP. The planning board develops the CIP. That's the first issue. Second issue is the warrant articles this year and the last 4 years have had recommended by the CIP. And I don't know if that means that you people, because you are responsible for this, for the capital improvement program, are recommending warrant articles. 2 of the warrant articles had that the planning board recommended money articles. I didn't see where you people voted to recommend an article, money article. Did I miss it?
Personally, I hate the idea of putting recommended by anybody on a ballot. Do your homework, read the thing. I don't want to take anybody's word, whether this is good, bad, or indifferent. But I was challenged on that and it has to be there. That's what
Okay,
I've been
nice.
told.
Mr. Chair, can I make a comment?
Yes.
To Lauren? So that was addressed with town council and so.
Yes, that's what
so-
I'm getting to.
Yeah,
Yes,
okay, I'm sorry.
getting-
I'll shut up and let you
I'm
talk.
getting that, but
Yep.
I don't believe this board voted to recommend that article.
I don't recall what.
Which article are we talking about? The funding for the planning board master plan?
Yes.
Yeah, we
We
voted
did.
on that.
We
You
made
voted-
motions.
You
for-
voted to recommend a money article.
So they vote to recommend the warrant article to the selectmen and the budget committee.
Okay, well,
Yeah,
the attorney said that that is not legal.
correct.
The planning board has no authority to recommend money articles. So it got to me thinking, well, how in the heck can you have the CIP recommendation on all the other articles?
Right, because they're a subsidiary of the planning
Who
board.
was still the authors? So talked to the attorney general, and there was a letter sent to the selectmen. Have you people seen the letter?
No.
No,
All right, I would ask that you people get that letter. It's March 4th. It's to the Board of Selectmen. I think it's be interested that because you people are the CIP program authors. Now, as for the committee, our RSA 675-4 is the authorization. The townspeople voted quite a while ago that it was going to be the planning board to do it. Well, there's another way that you can also go back to the voters and ask that it's set up with a group that includes members of the planning board, the budget committee, and other individuals in the town. But that is not what was set up in the town. It's still the planning board. I cannot find anywhere where it was changed over to this group now that seems to be running the CIP. And even that group is elected officials. So I don't think we're following the spirit of the law, let alone the law at all. So I would ask that the board review the RSAs and exactly how the CIP is supposed to work. Because I don't think we're following it at all,
yeah.
especially when somebody gets up and say, I'm on the CIP and blah, 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 blah.
Oh, people, individuals serve on the
I'm not
CIP
gonna argue,
committee.
I'm gonna put my input in.
Yeah,
Thank
no,
you.
I,
Okay, if you want to look at the law, you can then argue with me.
Not arguing.
I appreciate you bringing it up, and I definitely think, I mean, we don't want to be in violation, so
No.
we need to make sure that
That
what
should
we're
be
doing
an
is right.
agenda item for next month.
Yeah,
Right.
I mean, okay, they came in and did a little presentation. It took about 2 minutes. Only one that asked the question was Scott. He asked, how come you've changed the fire trucks from 25 years that we've had for years and years and years down to 20?
Mhm.
The answer was, well, they don't last so long.
Baloney, they don't.
Bingo. Okay, everybody approve? Yep. I don't think you're doing due diligent of what you're supposed to be doing with a CIP. This is millions of dollars. It's a nice chart. It's wonderful laid out and everything else. But I don't think you're putting your judgment into what's going into this. This is getting to be, and I'm going to pick on the selectmen a little bit. It seems like this is the gospel to them. They approved replacing a pickup truck that only has 72,000 miles on it because, well, the CIP said, yeah, that's what we ought to do. That's the year. I asked them, well, what happens if it had 20,000 miles on it? Well, it's in the CIP, so we got to follow it. I don't agree with that philosophy. That's their philosophy. Okay, but I don't believe that's what we should be following. Now, to get the nuts and bolts of this a little bit, I'm going to pick on the fire department a little bit, but they are going to replace almost all our fire trucks within 7 years. And even what Scott said, why not 25? But if they're going with 20, how is this evening out the tax rate when we replace everything in 7 years? And then what are we going to wait 13 more years before we start replacing fire trucks again? That isn't evening out the tax rate. So I don't think there's some logic in this either. I'd like you people to.
Yeah, you
look at
understand
this
the
a little bit
intent,
more.
right? The intent is to try and plan ahead.
Yes.
And it's, I don't think the intent is to give everybody a green light that, hey, when your 7 years is up.
Well, that's what they're using.
Yeah, and maybe that needs to be cleaned up a little bit, but certainly it's to plan ahead and have some money in reserve so that
Yeah.
when the proverbial poop hits the fan, that
Well-
you're ready, you're prepared.
In my opinion, the town should not be leasing these things. We're paying good interest money on leasing these fire trucks, which are big number trucks nowadays. I mean, really big numbers. We should save the money. And when we have the money, go buy the fire truck. We save bonding or leasing for, schools, fire stations, police stations. That's the stuff you bond. And in essence, by doing a lease on a 5-year lease, that's bonding it, but it's just a different term. And I think that's a consumable item and should not, and like the police cruisers, that's a consumable item. Pay for it.
Well, police officers are, they pay for themselves.
How do they pay for themselves?
What's the details?
Well, the cops make the money. The town doesn't make much but squat on the car.
Well, that's what buys the cars.
No.
No, the
But not to
detail-
get into the
No.
minutia right now, tonight. That's what I think ought to happen. Is there a discussion in the planning board, not to some subgroup? If you want to do a subgroup, that's fine. But I don't think it's following the law or the spirit of the law when you just come in, have a 2-minute presentation and you don't have any kind of discussion like that.
So
We elect people for their their knowledge, et cetera, volunteers are a different animal than somebody's elected. So it's like, the taxpayers and the voters say, okay, I think this person has a judgment. I want him to argue, do the work. A volunteer is different. So I'm just asking that you perhaps look at the law and perhaps maybe the spirit of the law isn't being followed. I'm not going to say you can't have a subcommittee. That's up to you people, but I think you ought to at least discuss what's in this document before it goes to the voters. And I hope you look at that. Attorney General's.
Yeah, I want to see that like badly.
Was that about 5 years ago, the selectmen decided and the town, administrator said, we're going to reconstitute the CIP. Well, they don't have the authority. It has to be the voters who decide which one of those two methods are being used. So, and I don't know, reconstituted, I heard of reconstituted orange juice, but I've never heard of reconstituted CIP.
The thing about it is too, is I lost my train of thought.
So maybe just from my standpoint as a new member to the board here, is the CIP actually developing that list or not?
Yes, solely.
They are.
No, it's
No.
brought to them from each department.
Yeah, well, but they're the one that compile it and put it together. Because the CIP for years and years and
It's
years,
just
I
getting
was,
rubber stamped is what you're saying essentially.
Well, I think a minute and a half presentation and then it's, okay, sounds good.
Yeah.
One question and it wasn't even answered. It wasn't even answered. You know, you may come up with exactly the same thing, but no discussion.
And just so you're clear on this, that we do get all that information
Yeah.
ahead of time. And in theory, we have reviewed it before the
Right.
meeting and the presentation.
Right.
No, can't speak for everyone in this, but that is the gist.
I just looked at the video.
Yeah.
There wasn't any discussion really. Thank you.
Thanks. All right, anything else from public?
Mr. Bober, anything from you? No,
All
okay.
right,
Any more noise down in your
Thanks, Lauren.
section?
motion,
Motion to adjourn.
second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm